Hello, and welcome to Big Witch Energy, the podcast that journeys into the wonderful and witchy world of Motherland, Fort Salem. We're going to recap and discuss all of the delicious content in every episode. I'm Bree.
And I'm Theora.
Come along with us while we dive deep into the hows, whys, whos, and what of this amazing show.
Can you believe we're already at this episode?
No, I really can't. This is a huge episode. This is the biggest episode we've seen so far. There's so many things that happen in this episode.
Oh my God.
I don't know how we're going to get through this in the shortest amount of time possible because there's so many things to say.
I know. I hope we do this justice for everyone listening because this is like the episode.
It's the episode. Don't come for us. We love you.
The episode. All caps.
The episode TM.
Yeah, we already got the scene. Now we're at the episode. So we will try our best.
But what episode is it?
This is Bellweather season. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Not Bedwetter season. Like...
No, well, if Libbo was naming the episode, that's what it would be.
But it was written by Joy Kecken, and we're sorry if we're pronouncing that incorrectly. We had an entire discussion about it.
We tried.
We
sorry,
tried.
white people.
Which is funny because we're both white. Directed by MJ Bassett, and we can get right into it with the scene I like to call blasting.
Yes, love it.
We're blasting it. The girls come into training. They're just coming from training. They're happy as clams because their wind strikes were bomb AF that day.
Mm-hmm.
Just like it's the first time you see them as a unit, just super happy after they've all been hanging out together with the training.
Yeah, it seems like all three of them did well in training, which usually isn't the case.
Right. Somebody's always not great that day.
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess they got it worked out. Everyone was on. But Tally is distracted by the codices because she's been reading them and how smooth Garrett was. So she's in, I'm wondering if it was real or not land. And then Abigail, they're all distracted in their ways because Abigail's excited about the pre-interview interview with the Dean of War College. Raylla at this moment only cares if Scylla can come to the wedding, which Abigail says she can't because it's not a potluck. Like, what are you trying to say? Lesbians have potlucks?
Or like you can only bring
the
dates
queers
to
have potlucks. You can only bring dates to potlucks, guys. They don't come to weddings.
It's like the witch version of brunch.
Apparently. Yeah. Considering what food they're eating, which we'll find out later,
we'll
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So Raylla wants to turn it into a fight because she's pissed. And she brings up that no one's going to talk to her because no one who's high Atlantic will talk to someone with a session drawl. Ugh. You don't have a session drawl, Raylla.
I know, she doesn't. I was like, what are you saying? You sound like Tally. Like she's from California.
Exactly. Like you don't have a session drawl,
no.
But I get where you're coming from.
Totally.
So she's pissed off about Scylla not being able to come, and then that leads her into, well, everyone's going to other me because I'm not fancy schmancy like the you high Atlantic people. What about Tally?
I know! Matrifocal Tally.
Yeah, matrifocal Tally's not going to fit in any more than you are.
No, we'll get there when Tally doesn't fit in.
We'll get there.
But yes, good point. Nobody thinks about Tally. Mm-hmm.
And so Raylla says, you should want Scylla to be there to distract me, which she's right.
Yeah.
Scylla would distract her from saying inappropriate things to people in power because that's what she wants to do.
Raylla loves the army. Let us all remember.
Raylla
loves
is a huge fan of the army, and she would tell any officer that at the wedding.
Oh, yes.
That's the true threat to Abigail. So Raylla's basically saying, if you don't let Scylla come, I'm going to say something real inappropriate to an officer about how much I love the army.
And the dean's going to be there, so...
Yeah, but Abigail holds her ground, and that makes Raylla leave the room, and we can only assume she's going to see Scylla. She grabs a box and puts it in a over-the-shoulder bag as she goes. And then we transition into the title theme.
We sure do. Just a couple of things I wanted to highlight from this. So Abigail referring to Scylla as a distraction. Love that.
Yes.
So it's just like, and then our lesbian Jesus is just immediately defending her girl. Like, okay, so hydrate for that.
Oh, hydrate for lesbian Jesus.
Because thank you, Joy. That's realistic. And I love the way it highlights the difference between the two of them. Like, Raylla is clearly like wife material, and then Abigail is just fuckboy. She's like, that's a distraction. Because, like, also at the same time, Tally was like, is Garrett gonna be there? So, like, they're all into their, like, quote unquote significant others. And Abigail's like, oh my God, there's gonna be other people. Like, you need to mingle with other people. So that's where we're at with them. Abigail's still in like fuckboy mode, and Raylla is just like wife material. So.
As she should be, though, because
she's lesbian Jesus. Duh.
Yeah. And Abigail has all that pressure. She has enough pressure on her
yes.
from her family to last a lifetime. Why would she worry about hooking up in a real relationship?
Yeah, no, Abigail's definitely not about that. And like that carries through this whole episode. Very good point.
And no one has caught her interest in that way either. So that's a big thing.
No, I also want to point out just a couple of things of Abigail dialogue. So Abigail also says like my mother and my father's plural will be there. So put a pin in that. That's some high Atlantic culture stuff that Elliot reveals a little bit later. And she also says when Raylla's talking about like the session stuff, Abigail's basically like, hey, like, remember, get your head in the game. All the people that are going to be there, they're the people that matters.
Right.
Yeah, that's where Abigail's head's at. She's like, these people, this is the high Atlantic function of the year. Those people are the people that matter. So she's like further othering everybody, like inadvertently.
No surprise that pisses Raylla off. She's she's back to saying all the wrong things.
She doesn't know how to talk to Raylla. Again, She just doesn't right now. But I think this is very interesting dialogue because Abigail's about to start going on a little journey that deviates her from this kind of stuff. But like, this is where Abigail's head's at, like going into the wedding. So I just wanted to point that out.
Well, that's what she's been taught her entire life.
Yeah.
These are the people that matter. You need to impress them, and that's it.
Exactly. And she's like, hey, you guys all need to do it too. But Raylla and, well, Tally's off in Garrett land, but like Raylla's in this conversation. She's like, I don't come from that culture. What are you talking about? I'm just going to leave.
That's not my priority.
Exactly.
My priority is Scylla.
Right. And how much Raylla loves the army.
And how much Raylla loves the army.
She's balancing those things right now. All right. So, yeah. So now we're going to follow our little lesbian Jesus with her satchel and the little box. And she...
Satchel. I love that word.
She's got her little satchel that we never see again. Why does she have that?
Well, she had to have something to carry the box.
I know. Props had to give her something. They're like, here's Raylla's satchel.
Here's Raylla's satchel.
So...
Can I have the satchel? She's not using it.
Right. She's not using this ever again. It's just for this scene. So, and then we transition. We follow Raylla into what I like to call another Raylla and Scylla scene in front of a majestic live oak. And so there's a very wide shot of a majestic live oak in gold light. So we all know who's going to be on screen. And so Raylla and Scylla are like walking together, and Raylla's just gushing all of her feelings about what she wants in life. They start getting into this like runaway fantasy conversation because I think the whole theme of this episode is like fantasy being shattered by reality for everybody. But it starts really with them. And Raylla brings up that she thinks that the two of them should just run away together because, you know, Raylla doesn't want to be in the army and she just wants a normal life with like a marriage and a mortgage. And like when she's delivering this line, this like suggestion of like, we should just run away, like just you and me. It's very like sing-songy and bubbly. Like when she imagines this scenario, she's like actually happy because Raylla rarely gets moments of happiness. So I think that's pretty significant, like in her head that's what she's thinking about. And Scylla laughs at this. So good job, lesbian Jesus, with your flirting. That was good.
That was good.
And then she further ups the proof that she's wife material by asking Scylla, well, where's your favorite place to be? Because a hallmark of Raylla's character is just putting other people first, especially people she cares about and loves. So here she is doing that again. So hydrate yourselves. And Scylla mentions the beach, and she tells this little story about how when she was younger, her and her family, I assume, went to this beach called Labor and Pain. And Scylla really loved it there. And it was the last time she ever felt safe. And so I just want to talk a little bit about this story. So when she's like kind of delivering this, she has this very like glazed, faraway look in her eye. So like this is a real story she's telling Raylla. She's not bullshitting her. And the name of the beach is really interesting. So it's called Labor and Pain. That's kind of like terminology used for like birth. So it symbolizes like a new beginning, which again is kind of like the theme of this episode. But I like that they used it in this way. So like new beginning, but like labor. So like a big challenge or like pain comes with a new beginning or a new birth. So this, I think it's a metaphor for like the transformation all of them are about to go down. And using the metaphor of a beach and ships. So she mentioned that she would sit on the beach for hours and watch the ships leave for faraway lands. And there was this lighthouse that was nearby. So like lighthouses in a literary sense are usually there to symbolize like hope. So like this is Scylla's like the thing she's clinging to is like that hope of freedom. So like she was sitting on a beach watching all these ships just come and go. Like they had freedom in her mind. And this is what Scylla really wants. So I think that young Scylla was very, very enamored by this concept of like real freedom, where these civilians and ships could just come and go as they please, because she was this little kid living in hiding, constantly on the run. And here she was where she had a break for that for like a week, where she could just watch people actually be free. And I think that's something that stuck with Scylla and really like changed her in a certain way. And I think that's why this memory is like coming up now. And so, and then the abandoned lighthouse is just like the hope of that for her one day. And so that's the thing that Scylla's fighting for, because a new beginning involves fighting. So I think this is a very good story that kind of summarizes Scylla and, you know, Scylla's journey to where she is now. And it's very sad because she still doesn't have that freedom. If anything, she's more trapped in this like world where she's like the spree agent being trapped by the spree. And it's very, very sad. But
she's struggling with her loyalties.
Yeah, that too. And while they're having this whole conversation, it's about this theoretical, you know, the fantasy of freedom. And it's just like they're still trapped in this world. So they're not free despite the fantasy scenario. And I think Raylla really gets this whole like feeling of like having no control over your life or your destiny and just like being trapped. Because when Scylla's giving the story about like, well, you know, that was the last time I felt free, indicating I'm still not free and I don't feel safe really. That was my safe place. Raylla kind of gets that because, you know, she was pulled from her quote unquote safe place with like her mom and her dad and like thrown into the army where she doesn't want to be. So like Raylla gets all of this. And as they're walking and, you know, Scylla kind of gets a little sad about it, Raylla just jumps back into the fantasy scenario where she's like, well, what are we waiting for? Let's go. Let's go do this. And then we get this really cool impromptu moment when they're talking about running away on the beach and leaving their medals on the door. Amalia, like the genius she is, just like picks up Taylor and spins her around because she's a genius. Give her awards for that.
That strength, yo.
Yeah, she's showing off her strength, her actual physical big witch energy there.
There's a picture of her holding a fully grown, very tall man and looking like she's not having any trouble at all, I believe on her Instagram. And I, for one, think that picking Taylor up was probably like a feather.
Yeah, Taylor's like 40 pounds soaking wet. That's nothing. But good impromptu moment because it was beautiful. And she's just like, well, tell the birds to sing our goodbyes and all this. Like, it's like fantasy language. And then Raylla says something interesting where she's like, I want to swim in the ocean. So do you think that Raylla has ever seen the ocean? Because, yeah, I think that she hasn't based on like where she grew up. So I think for Raylla, she's like, I just want to like be in the ocean. I've never done that before. Like, let's go do things. And that's like a let's live our lives kind of moment, right, which is very different from like pilot Raylla, who's just like feels doomed. Like here's Scylla again, like giving Raylla like hope and like something to live for. Like I can go in the ocean for the first time. I thought that was pretty significant.
Wherever Chippewa Session is, I know she says it's near Carolina in the pilot, but the session is in the middle of the country, which we still aren't really clear on. In either case, I don't think that she was anywhere near the coast.
No, not at all. And she, as you mentioned, like humble beginnings Raylla, she didn't have money, so it's not like she could go on, I don't see them going on trips, you know.
They didn't go on like day trips or anything. They went on a trip down to the Walmart.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like the session's along like the Mississippi River, so she probably saw water, but it wasn't the ocean. is my assumption.
It's rivers and creeks. And
Exactly. So again, this is like a new beginning. I can do new things. So it's very, thank you, Joy. This is a great dialogue that you wrote here. And then the sad part, so they're kind of solidifying this thing. And Scylla says, after the wedding, I promise. And that promise hurts so bad.
Mm-hmm.
But she's like, just, we'll get there. Don't screw things up with Abigail. And don't not go because of me. And she looks really like nervous. Like when she's saying this, like she's like genuinely like, Raylla, don't screw things up. Like for me kind of thing. I think she was pretty genuine there. And then Raylla flips on her lesbian Jesus A game again and says, I like doing everything because of you.
Good Lord, ladies, take notes from Raylla.
Hydrate yourselves with your entire water bottle right now.
Yeah, just dump it on your head.
Just victory. Just hydrate and drench yourselves because it's everywhere, her A game. And Scylla feels the hydration because she starts smiling. Like she's genuinely happy about this answer. It's very adorable. And you can see that Scylla is really in this moment with Raylla and really feeling things here.
It was so sincere the way the line came off, like just, oh my God, she sold that line so hard.
Yeah, Scylla bought it, hook, line, and sinker, and is like, oh, look at her saying these things about me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then Raylla's like, yeah, I basically wish you can come with me, and Scylla's like, you know what, get through the wedding, and then we'll go somewhere safe afterwards. So Scylla is still in the fantasy scenario. And she's like, yeah, well, get through the wedding and we will go somewhere together afterwards that's safe, where we won't get court-martialed and everything's going to be great. You can swim in the ocean like you wanted to. And Scylla's very like direct and forceful when she's delivering this. Cause I think she's like, yeah, I like this scenario. Like, let's do this. And Scylla is an action person. And so she's like, I'll fight for this because I like this idea and we can do this, you and me. And I think the other piece of this too is that I think Scylla's coming to terms with the fact that Raylla is a safe place for her, or Raylla could be a safe place for her if she wasn't playing spree double agent.
Mm-hmm.
But while they're trapped in this army spree game, that can't really be a thing. And then Raylla delivers the line that bursts the bubble, which is, "We're witches, Scylla, where is safe?" Because even though the fantasy sounds great, they're still trapped in this reality of, they would still be in hiding. They wouldn't really be free. So there is no safe place in this world for them as long as this system, the way it is still in place. And Scylla, I think, gets all that, but she has this look on her face afterwards where like she wants to protest this and keep fighting for like this fantasy scenario. But Raylla interrupts her and she's like, let's do a gift exchange.
Well, she also looked like she wanted to tell her something. Like she was going to let something slip.
Yeah. No, I think she was like, no, for real, we can do this kind of thing. She was going to fight for it, for real.
Well, I feel like she was going to reveal something that she probably probably wouldn't have normally as far as what she's doing there.
Yeah, I think Scylla's going to be like, no, like for real, we're getting out of here after this wedding. Like,
for real, we're getting out of here. I may have lied to you a lot, but here's the deal. Let's go on the lam and then I'll tell you everything.
I agree with that. And that's what I mean. I think Scylla was going to fight for the scenario, like for real. But Raylla is like, hey, it's Christmas. Let's do a gift exchange.
It's Christmas.
Or your birthday or something. I don't know. I'm lesbian Jesus. I don't need an occasion to give you a gift.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
We were going to, basically it's like, hey, we were going to the prom, but we can't go to the prom. So here's your gift.
Well, yes. And then they do a mutual gift exchange, but Raylla is very much in prom mode. I love that. Yeah, Raylla's in prom mode. Scylla is somewhere else, and we'll get there. But
yeah.
So Raylla gets the satchel and then shows us what she was hiding in this satchel we only see one time. And she made this little bird skull boutonniere for Scylla. And Scylla calls it sexy weird, which means she loves it. So she's all into the bird skull necro boutonniere. And then Scylla's like, well, I got a gift for you. It's just a little something I cooked up casually. And it's witch texting. So Scylla straight up invents witch texting for her girlfriend because that's just who she is. She's like, oh, you made me something? I also made you something, but it's magic. And she basically shows Raylla that if she mumbles a little bit and outlines an S on her palm, it will transfer over to Raylla's palm in this like mottled red skin. And Raylla's like, wow, I got the first text ever. I love it. and Scylla's like, yeah, I just casually invented this because Scylla big witch energy. Ramshorn just casually invents magic. This is instance number one. First of all, she should patent that because she'd be a millionaire in this world. But also she's like, I just, want to be able to say hi to you, like, whenever, because that's the gayest reason ever to invent witch texting.
Yeah.
So
I feel like it was layered with some other things as
well, of course, but it's pretty extra. It's on brand for Scylla.
It's so extra and on brand, but also on brand for Scylla is that it's also practical.
Yeah, no, totally. Well, it would have been more practical if she taught Raylla how to do it back so they could communicate, but
well, absolutely.
It's Scylla. She doesn't think things through.
She's Scylla. She just does the action and then
yeah. She's like, I invented witch texting because I can. Oh, I should have shown you. Whoops. We'll get there later. But yeah, so it's very cute. So they do their gift exchange and then they kiss. And this time it's Scylla who walks Raylla back because Raylla's gentle womanly ways are rubbing off on Scylla, and then they walk off together.
Yeah. I'll get you back. I love that line I just like that line.
It's cute.
But the whole scene is just like rife with all these undercurrents of so many things in their relationship are going on underneath the surface on both sides that neither of them know about, and it's just so much to think about.
Yeah, and like we talked about in the last episode, remember, Scylla made the baby step to like choose Raylla in this small kind of way and made their relationship more concrete. And you can see in this exchange that Scylla's head is now very much in their relationship. And so you see her struggling with, again, the fantasy versus reality of their situation. And Raylla has been in fantasy land with Scylla the whole time, basically. And so I think what's also important to note is that they ultimately both want the same thing. Raylla wants to be free. She doesn't want to do this crap either. But Raylla's not actively fighting, in the spree to make that possible. But Scylla is. But they both want the same thing at the end of the day. So I think that's important to remember kind of going forward.
I also want to bring up one thing that's not directly related to what's happening in the show.
Do it.
The way they were with one another throughout that entire scene has more reality and chemistry in it than 90% of the other relationships you've seen between two women on TV. Because I was watching something with a relationship in it this weekend, like one set of scenes with a couple in it that was two women, and there was nothing there. It was like these people didn't know how to do relationships all of a sudden. So I just would like to appreciate and shout out the Taylor and Amalia for making it actually like a real relationship.
Yeah, they commit to their characters and clearly talk to each other before they go do these things, and they make it very believable. It's very realistic the way they just, their body language with each other. They're kind of like knocking into each other when they're walking and just doing little like tactile, affectionate displays, which I feel like is a big thing that's usually missing with queer couples on screen. It's like they have the dialogue that's written for them and they'll kiss or whatever, but there's usually like the absence of just like that comfortable affection, and they do it very well to kind of with their body language.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to say. The comfortable affection has always been missing in most of these queer relationships, and I don't know how to say how much that's appreciated by all of the fans. They make it feel real rather than like two straight actresses that are just playing these parts in a wooden way.
Yeah, so well done, you two. I mean, they're clearly doing an awesome job where they impromptu like lift each other up for no reason. They're just like, this feels right.
Thank you. Good Lord. Yeah, this feels right. We're gonna go with this. I love it.
Well done. They have good instincts for what they're trying to portray. And also that's very like, okay, I have to say too, again, the whole theme of that conversation is just like fantasy stuff, and like picking somebody up and twirling them is very like fantasy, like Cinderella kind of stuff. So like Amalia gets the assignment, like well played.
I felt like I was in the gayest Disney scene.
Right. She gets that because it's a fantasy conversation. So
yeah.
Well played, ma'am.
I mean, the woman is pretty amazing with her craft anyway, what she puts into it. So she has thought through all of that.
Yep, exactly. So thank you, the two of them.
Yes. But that gets us back to Scylla's room, where she's going to come in and have this super soft smile on her face while she's admiring her new, what they call in the episode, a corsage, which she opens the box and she's just stroking the little bird skull and softly smiling. And I think she's just back in the I'm enjoying my feels land. And it's so stupidly adorable.
It's so cute. She's just like caressing the bird with her finger pads like it's the most precious thing in the world to her. It's so cute.
It's like she's petting a little cute furry animal or something. I don't know.
It's adorable.
You're so cute right now.
Yeah, Scylla caught feelings. Big feelings.
She got the feels. Me being me, I'm looking at her desk.
Oh, I was looking at her whole room. Did you see like the trunk in there? It's like a Harry Potter trunk.
Yes!
And what were those books? Like her room's interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Her room is so interesting. I just want to walk into that set and look at everything in detail.
Yeah. And then she had like a horn on the desk. And I'm like, what are you doing in this room? I want to know. Elliot, explain.
Explain. I see like the horn, like you said. I saw some leather-bound notebooks.
Like a journal.
And then there's something that's sort of cylindrical, but it looks almost crystal-like. And it's sided. It's roundish. You can barely see it right out of the corner from where the horn is. But you also see feathers. And these are like normal, sort of normal things you might find on a witch's altar. But
yeah,
I want to know what that crystal thing was, just out of curiosity. So I was looking at that while she's caressing the bird skull and being super cute and happy about it. But then she feels the presence of the balloon in the mirror. It's back.
It's homophobia, spree balloon. What the hell?
I call it the super secret spree balloon messenger. But her face immediately goes hard. Like she gets this hard cast to her countenance. And she turns and starts talking to it. But Blue Loon is mad that she didn't get invited to the wedding. But Scylla's like, she couldn't get me on the guest list. I don't know what else I'm supposed to do. And they basically tell her, well, that's her problem, but you better bring Raylla to us by 6 p.m. or your future is bleak. And then at the end, it says your choice. And that's a very important message because it is absolutely Scylla's choice and she's going to make a choice later in the episode.
Yep. In the last episode, Scylla made a baby choice. This is the big choice episode.
This time she's going to jump off the cliff.
Yes. So what's different here, we talk about like her like Dodger survival mode. So she's still kind of in that headspace, which is why like she's like, hey, let's just run away is her solution with Raylla. But now she's in this position where previously, like with the Porter stuff, it was like, we keep seeing her making these choices out of self-preservation, right? Where it's like, okay, it's either Porter or me. So I'm choosing me. And now she's in a position where it's Raylla or her. That's the choice she's being given, at least with the spree. And so kind of keep that in mind. And I don't think Scylla likes being in this position because the face twitch she has at the very end of that message is just everything.
She doesn't have that many lines in this scene, but she says a lot more than she actually speaks out loud.
Correct.
Because of the micro expressions and just the way the body language. It's everything.
Yeah, but exactly. She says a lot in her facial expressions, but like the last face twitch was just like, I don't like this choice.
Yeah, like no, this is not where I want to be.
This is not where I want to be. Yeah, it's So go back and watch that. That face twitch tells you everything you need to know about Scylla's headspace right now. All right, so after we leave a very conflicted Scylla, let's say, we shoot on over to Marblehead, Massachusetts, which we get a great glorious glimpse of one of Abigail's two homes. So we get this wide shot of a literal mansion along the grounds of the Atlantic Ocean. It's got manicured lawns. There's this nice ass 1950s gangster car rolling up to the entrance.
Like all of them are 1940s and 50s cars that are just going through that.
Yeah, you're just like, what? Okay. And there's like soft piano music, like you'd hear at like a ancient concert. So it's just like money is the point of this. And we see Petra dressed in all her fancy military attire, greeting some officers. And she's like, haha, yes, please come into my mansion. And she starts chatting about Charvel, who's the bride. And she's like, yeah, this ceremony's great, but just wait till Abigail gets hand-fasted. Because this whole time, Petra is in, I need to marry my daughter off land. And, you know, this gang of like important hoity-toity people goes inside. They're greeted by this waiter with champagne. They grab their champagne and keep rich people chatting. And then we follow the waiter. This waiter takes us from the big ass mansion outside where there's like this giant garden party happening, because that's where the ceremony is going to happen. And this waiter is just like ditching trays and like going towards the hedge maze. And we see at some point when she ditches her last tray that she has the jacket with the bird skull boutonniere on it. So this is Scylla in one of her spree faces. And so she rounds a corner to hide behind some hedges, lights her face on fire, puts the jacket on, just in time for the unit to arrive. The unit spots her, and Abigail just looks pissed. Like, what the fuck are you doing here? Tally's kind of like confused, but like, whatever. And Raylla is acting like it's her birthday, and she like runs over to Scylla. And so Abigail, now being in Bellweather land, is like, this can't be happening. She flips on her big witch energy and just confronts Scylla. And she's like, what the hell are you even doing here? You cannot crash this. This is a Bellweather wedding. Like, what are you doing? And then she immediately doesn't like Tilla like respond. She just starts accusing Raylla because she's panicking. And she's like, did you do this? Did you bring her here or hide her? Like, what is this? And Raylla's like, no. And then it finally dawns on Raylla. She's like, wait, why are you here? But Raylla gives her no time to respond. She's like, I'm glad you're here. It doesn't matter. I don't care. Like, you're here. Yay. Side note, while all this big witch energy stuff is happening, Tally is blurry in the background playing with flowers, and it's so adorable. Go back and watch that. It's really funny.
I love Jess.
She's like, I don't want to be in this scene. So she's just like playing with flowers.
I want to know if that was in the script or if Jess was just like, I'm going to play with flowers.
I assume she was just blocked to be standing in that area. And she's like, well, what would Tally be doing? Playing with flowers?
WWTD.
So she had to justify standing there. So I love it. Go watch that. It's really fucking funny. But anyway, nobody presses Scylla on why she's here. Raylla's just like, yay, you're here. And Abigail's like, whatever. You will not mess this up for me. And before Scylla can like flip on her big witch energy and challenge Abigail, Major Hulk shows up. And Abigail just goes into like hostess mode. She's like, hi, Major, let's go talk. And she leads the Major away. And Scylla and Raylla immediately like drift off into their own little bubble and walk away. And then Tally stops playing with the flowers and she's like, God damn it, I'm the third wheel, and just like follows them.
So I thought it was Edith's house that they're at. Like it was
it's a Bellweather
mansion. It's a Bellweather
mansion,
but I think it was indicated that it's Petra's sister Edith's house.
Oh, my bad.
No, I'm just that weirdo that was listening to the rich people talk. First of all, Tally is both adorable and makes me sad when she realizes that she's third wheel Tally.
I know.
And Scylla really got away with this one because no one actually, like you said, Nobody did ask, like, let her answer that question.
No, Raylla asked the question, and then she's like, I don't care. Why are you? It doesn't matter. Let's go.
It makes sense for Raylla to skip past the question, but I thought Abigail would be more of
Abigail was like, oh.
But yeah, she's worried about impressing all the officers and especially the dean. So I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah, I think she's just too distracted.
So yeah, that gets us to our family gathering, as I like to call it. Petra comes down the stairs like a queen and addresses the gathered assemblage, which are all Bellweather family peeps. Mm-hmm. And Abigail comes up to her, and Petra is just 5 kinds of pissed because the unit was barely on time, and that's as good as being late. So we get to see a lot more of Petra helicopter parenting Abigail in this, and Abigail just being beaten down, basically.
It's like she's drill sergeanting her daughter.
She is drill sergeanting her daughter, and Abigail says that there were shitbird issues. So we're back to the animal insults about everybody.
But it's like this universal term everybody knows, which is what I love. Mama's like, yeah, okay, I gotcha. But
yeah, but there's not going to be any of that today. So you better keep them in line.
Keep those shitbirds in a cage.
Exactly. Tally and Raylla and Scylla come up, and Abigail introduces her unit to the family, and it's the most awkward thing ever.
Oh my god. It's more awkward than the first time the unit met each other.
Exactly. I don't know. Like, I was uncomfortable watching it every single time.
Yeah, I was Scylla in this scene. Like, why am I here?
Yeah, Scylla's just chilling there, and I'm like, if I were her, I would have just kind of stepped off.
I know, she definitely wanted to. She's like, how can I get out of this?
Yeah, how can I get away from all these Bellwethers? This is not her scene at all.
No.
But Raylla introduces Scylla as her guest, and you can tell that Petra would like to yeet Scylla out over a retaining wall somewhere.
She already wants to do that to the unit.
That's true.
There's this fourth wheel.
Here's the fourth wheel, and she can't say anything about it right now because the family's all there.
Mm-hmm.
And then she says, Tally, Raylla, please consider yourselves part of the family.
But she already mentally yeeted Scylla out the window.
She already mentally yeeted Scylla out the window, and my reaction is, no thanks, you're way too high pressure. Why would I want to be a part of this family?
Right.
So Petra takes Abigail away and leaves the lovebirds and Tally the third wheel.
Oh, wait. Before we go on, I have to say, when Raylla, in Southern gentlewoman fashion, introduces Scylla, if you look at Scylla's face, she's got this smug expression.
Yes!
And staring at Abigail. She's like, remember that big witch energy contest we were having earlier? Yeah, she just won that for me. So Scylla wins the big witch energy off with Abigail by proxy via Raylla in this scene.
They've been having this big witch energy off since they were in the pizza parlor.
Yeah, but Scylla doesn't have to lift a finger for this. She's like, Raylla won it for me. So haha, Abigail. I love it.
And it also proves Raylla is on Scylla's side. She'll choose Scylla. Which is duh.
I mean, in the last episode, Raylla was like, hey, I'm all in. And she is. She's showing you right here.
She's all in.
She's all in.
She's doing everything she can in her lesbian Jesusness to make Scylla a part of this.
Yeah. Hydrate yourselves. That's what she's doing.
Hydrate for lesbian Jesus.
Just had to point that out. Because Scylla's face is so good. She's like, ha ha.
I love that you pointed that out because I think I just skipped over that note. So Petra takes Abigail away, and then Scylla thanks Raylla for introducing her, and they're being all cute and eye-fucking.
Yes. In the middle of my wedding?
In the middle of my wedding? In front of my salad.
That's Tally in the scene.
It's Tally.
In front of my Tally.
In front of my Tally? In front of my flower-loving Tally.
I will never get over blurry Tally playing with flowers. It's so good.
Me either. Raylla says that they should bail and go find the beach later, which we know she's right. Since Scylla showed up, she's back in Fantasyland.
Yeah, Raylla's like, I wore my bathing suit just in case.
Yeah, I have my bathing suit underneath here. Are we going to the beach? When are we going? Can we go now? But Tally looks so sad because she's still thinking about Garrett, and I think she was thinking about those little flower things that he made.
Oh my god,
her.
Yes. The little knotted wreaths, yes.
Yeah, the knotted flower wreaths I think that's why she was playing with the flowers.
That makes sense.
Bad Tally. But Raylla reluctantly invites Tally to the beach because she overheard it, obviously, because Raylla and Scylla are in their own world and forget that Tally exists for a second.
I love that. She's like, yeah, you can come to Tally or whatever.
Come if you want, maybe, but don't really.
Don't really.
Don't really, please.
I didn't bring a bathing suit for you. You don't want to go.
You don't want to go. We're just gonna make out.
Yeah. Poor Tally.
Sex on the beach. Sorry, what?
Tally needs a good man or a woman to take her to the beach. That's what I'm saying.
She does.
She does.
So Tally says that she'll stay behind and meet other guys and be all rah unity, like Abigail said.
So cute.
Which that's her little phrase for
this
episode is unity.
Unity. It keeps coming up. It's
cute. That is a tongue twister for me.
I love it. It's a very Tally phrase. Unit
It
unity.
is a very unity. I feel like she should have pom-poms while saying
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Tally the cheerleader.
Tally the cheerleader.
There's a fantasy for you.
Someone sent us that fan fiction.
There we go. We switch to Petra, who's once again pulling Abigail aside to be like, WTF, but she asks who the girl Raylla brought, and Abigail's response is just classic. She's another shitbird.
That's Abigail's catchphrase this episode.
Yeah, it is. And I'm like, rude. I think that she feels she would say another word for Scylla if she could.
I think she has many words for Scylla.
Absolutely. I think they both think Scylla and Abigail think each other are stupid, basically.
Yeah, the actresses have said that, so that comes across when you see them interact.
Absolutely. And I love it.
I love it.
I love that they have that.
But, Scylla is superior in that exchange. Just throwing that out there.
Well, she wins almost every time.
That's why Abigail's salty. She's like, this shitbird keeps big witch energy out measuring me, so I'm mad.
Her big witch energy is bigger than mine, and I'm not having that. So
it is. And she just lost again. And again, Scylla didn't lift a finger. Raylla won for her.
Yep. But Raph and the Sorcells? Is it Sorcells or Sorcells are here. So apparently Abigail should get ready to be hitched herself. Basically, it's all Mama Bellweather plotting who she's going to marry Abigail or handfast Abigail off to so they can have lots of witch babies.
Yeah, it's like Charvel isn't even technically married yet. She's like, okay, well, the last one's Abigail. We got to get this going immediately.
And it starts this, we've kind of heard it before, but this is really hammering home how their society works as far as the point is for you to get a man and have some witch babies. We need more witch babies. So that gets the ball rolling on that. And we see more about that in later episodes. But for now, we just have Mama Bellweather trying to marry Abigail off, for which she has big plans.
Yeah, so it's like this is another point of pressure with like the Bellwethers and Abigail, basically. It's like even her like quote unquote personal life is being, I don't know, like monitored or like calculated by these other people. Like even that's out of her control. They're like, you got to start going. And Abigail's like, I'm not even in war college yet. Like, you know,
I'm not in war college. I'm not ready to get prego. Obviously, I don't want like a dude around for an extended period of time.
Right. Yeah.
I want to do my own thing and make my name in the army.
Dang.
That's Abigail's big goal, is to make her own name in the army, which we'll see come up again.
Yes, that's important.
I do want to note that I feel like we're at this point where Mama Bellweather is not seeing her daughter as a person.
Nope.
Rather than as a commodity or a thing to further her own ambitions and her ambitions for her family. And that's going to change in this episode to an extent, because I don't think it changes all the way. But I think it's also interesting to note that that's what Abigail does to everyone else in a way.
Yes.
So we see where she's getting it because, as we've said, that's how she grew up. But she almost treats other people like they're not human in a way.
Yeah.
And that their wants and needs and desires don't matter, only her goals. So we see Mama Bellweather's influence and the Bellweather line's influence, I think, makes Abigail start to think, because she feels so trapped by having no control. So I think that also, along with everything that's going to happen, sinks in for her in this episode.
Yeah, this is, again, for all the characters, this episode is very much like the fantasy being shattered. And so we've talked about this before. I agree with everything you just said. We've talked about this before, but like Abigail, you can see the Bellwethers, the way they view relationships is very different from other people. It's the humanity is very much stripped out of it. And it's like, you know, affection, quote unquote, is tied to achievements and upholding the Bellwether legacy. And so part of that is handfasting and making more female Bellwethers to carry on the military line and all that stuff. And so that's where Petra's head's at. And Abigail's still like stuck in, well, I'm trying to get into war college, like one thing at a time. But you really see that dynamic with them. It's literally all about the legacy. It's all about the legacy. Like, your wants, your needs don't matter. And I think Abigail has been going along with that the whole time. But like you said, she's going to come to a point where she's like, well, wait, does this make sense for me? Which again is like the fantasy of the Bellweather. Like, she's like, I was going to get into war college. I'm going to be a leader. And like all these things kind of got in Abigail's way to getting there. Like, now she's tied to a unit, and like all these things outside of her control have been like messing with that and causing Abigail to like go on this different path than the rest of the Bellwethers kind of went down. And that starts kind of like escalating here.
And funnily enough, I think overall that's what's going to lead her to actually making the mark in her own name.
Totally.
Like she wanted to. It's just she's going to get there in a very different way than what she expected and what anyone else expected for her. So she's just struggling at the beginning of that journey right now. And I think it's a great piece of writing. It really brings Abigail to life for me. Because
Yeah.
before this, all these interactions she's had with everyone, she's come out looking like the annoying bitch. And
Yeah.
and you don't really know what to do with her, but then like we've seen Mama Bellwether get on her before, but the way Ashley acts, her acting in this episode was so great to just make you feel what Abigail's going through.
Yeah. Abigail gets humanized going forward, and it starts here. So I totally agree with you. This is the start of a really great Abigail arc, and I love where they took this character. It's
Me too.
All right. So from this little Bellweather interaction, we then start the wedding. And this wedding is just fascinating by like how they do it, what goes down, and how it differs from what we think of as like weddings in modern day. Granted, wedding, quote unquote, has evolved over history, even in this universe, but like witch weddings are different as well. And so we'll kind of get into that. But very, very briefly, what kind of happens is the wedding procession starts, and it starts with Charbel, so the bride, and her mama coming through first. Following junior matrimonialist Tansy, who's leading up this
back.
Tansy's back. The bridal party and then like the guests kind of all weave through these like this like rock pathway that's in like this circular spiral kind of thing, and they kind of like stand on the outside of the spiral path until they get to the altar in the middle, the bridal people. And Tansy gives this speech about that really highlights the purpose of what's happening here. And so just key dialogue about what they're about to talk about before we get into like the altar stuff. She gives a speech about how the union, the purpose of this is to further the Bellweather matriline. So reinforcing that this is about the matriline. That's what we're doing. That's this wedding. So the babies will be Bellwethers, not Zero babies. Zero's just there to make the next Bellweather. And important language during the ceremony, they mention that this is a 5-year union. So this isn't forever. It's a 5-year contract. And Elliot mentions in After the Storm that the purpose of this is to take the male witch off the market for 5 minutes, because in this world, there's less male witches than female witches. So this is a way to like keep bloodlines with witches only. So it's like a kind of a prejudice thing. It's kind of like a power thing. So that's why they take the male witches off the market for a period of time. In the vows, too, they also vow to treat each other as equals, which I found really interesting and significant, given this is all like a matriarchy kind of thing. They're like, we're going to be equals in this union. And they also comment that like, this is about making the next daughter. So like the coveted result of these unions is making more daughters, which makes it very different from like marriages as we know it, where it's all about making a male to carry on the name. So it's, again, that gender role reversal that's super, super nice here. And just one more comment on just like marriages. So not because these are like contracts that are temporary. Elliot says that like it's not that like there's no love in witch relationships, like love as we know it, like affectionate, but like that exists. But like this illusion of marriage being this forever thing is just not something they do, and they kind of can't based on like there's not enough male witches. So I just kind of wanted to comment on that from Elliot.
And I will say, so what they're actually doing is hand fasting.
Yes.
Which is very ancient tradition, but it was associated with To make a long story short, it was associated with an engagement. So it was like a trial marriage. So you get handfasted, and that means that you're married, but you can revoke that contract if you decide that you don't want to be in it. And it's also used for temporary weddings. So where you could be married for a certain amount of time for whatever reason and then move on with your lives. So I just the history of hand fasting, and it's been revitalized in recent years by neo-pagan religions.
Totally. And that's where those ribbons came from.
That's where the ribbons came from, which I thought it was also interesting to note that I think that Elliot may have gotten some of his information, or not information, but some of the things about his matrilineal society from a Chinese ethnic minority called the Musoa, which I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. I'm sorry, everyone. But they are a matriarchal society in a way, or a matriarchal culture in a way, in that the women are the head of the house, inheritance is through the female line, women make all the business decisions. But unlike in our world that we're in Motherland, the political power tends to still be in the hands of men. But the men's roles in the society are like they are in Motherland, as far as they're the ones that bring up the children. Like
Ooh.
they bring up the uncles bring up the children, and so they bring up the children of their sisters and the female cousins. They build houses. They're in charge of livestock and fishing, and they learn from their uncles and other older male family members as soon as they're old enough how to do these things like care for children. So they trace their lineage through the female side of the family. So there's that in common. And occasionally they don't even know who the father of a child is. Like they're just like, what? We got a kid. That's the important thing. So the kid is doesn't stay in the home of the mother. It's passed off to the uncles. So the uncles raise all the children, and the woman goes out and makes all the business decisions and heads the household. And but they also have these temporary marriages. So the man will come over to the woman's house at night, and he'll stay there through the whole night, and they'll do their thing, and then he goes home in the morning and she carries on her business. And that's how marriages are in their society.
That is so much misandry. I love it.
Right?
All right, the sun's out. Get out.
Yeah, the sun's
raise
up. You
those
need to go
babies.
home. Go raise them babies. So yeah, that's I thought was super interesting, and maybe somewhere Elliot got inspiration.
That is so fascinating. I love it.
Yeah, so these women have sexual relationships with anybody they want, basically.
It sounds a lot like this witch culture,
Yeah,
honestly.
it is, honestly. But after their children are born, the man has no moral or cultural or legal obligation towards the child.
I mean, that sounds like
So
this world.
exactly. So they make sure the kid's taken care of, obviously, but it's by the female's family. So there you go.
Interesting.
That's kind of an interesting little glimpse into some interesting cultural pieces.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Eliot pulled from that or referenced it when he was writing this or creating this kind of like societal thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. So with that, so that's the hand fasting ribbons. So they're symbolizing like the vows for this like little temporary marriage. Just to kind of tie up the scene, just wanted to comment on the other things that were on the altar with Tansy. So there's the ribbons, which we talked about what that was for. And then there's the conch shell filled with water. So after they wrap the hand fasting ribbons around their clasped hands, she pours water from the conch shell onto their hands. And what I could find is that this is a tradition that started in Thailand where the water it's sometimes it was fresh water, sometimes it was ocean water, and the purpose was it's like this blessing to basically solidify the marriage. So that's the thing that makes this quote unquote the ceremony done. Like you're married now, this water has like wrapped around your hands, you've been blessed. So that was the purpose of that. And then the other piece is the dagger. Do you want to talk about the dagger, Bree?
Sure. So in, I guess, modern neo-paganist Wiccan traditions, there's a piece of magical equipment called an athame, which I believe that this dagger is supposed to symbolize, even though traditionally it's supposed to be black handled. It's used to do things like cast circles and various other ritual practices. But I just thought it was interesting that it was sitting there. It's white handled, I believe, which there's also a white handled dagger used in neo paganism that's for a different purpose. But, they used it for cutting herbs and things of that nature. But it was just thought it was interesting that they put that fancy ass white handled dagger on the altar, and it was, I guess it's supposed to be the Athame.
Yeah, I was looking up this too, trying to figure out why on earth there's a dagger, because they don't do anything with it. It just sits on the altar.
Mm-hmm. That's the other thing. She would have used it
Right. I was like, okay, but you didn't use it. And then all I could find was like stuff about black hilted daggers. So I also was confused by this, because I found in like Crate, the couple would hold this black dagger and during a wedding ceremony, and basically it was like counteracting spells that might be cast on the marriage.
Yeah, exactly. It was used for protection.
Yeah.
For protecting the couple. Yeah, that's the traditional use of the Athame in a hand fasting, but I like that the ribbons on their the ribbons on the knots of their hand fasting are passed down, like all the ones from each person that's been hand fasted in the Bellweather family.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. And so I was wondering, like, does Charvel add her own? Is that how this works?
Does Charvel add one? Is one of those hers? Is the question I had.
Right. I would assume maybe, but they don't explain it. So I thought the language there was interesting too, like you said. Mm-hmm. And it's like, this is for the daughter yet to come. So I guess when there's a new daughter, there's a new ribbon.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Cool. All right. Any other things about like the altar or the language in the ceremony?
No, I'm good.
Cool. So while this is all happening, the cutest and gayest thing ever happens. So,
praise Lesbian Jesus. Here it comes.
This is my favorite scene that doesn't involve Isadora in the whole show. So, well, in season 1. We'll get to season 2. But, so they did the conch shell thing, and now they're like, great. Do you, Charvel Bellweather, and Ciro Hood seek to enter this contract? And as Tansy is posing this question, Raylla smiles, looks at Scylla, who smiles back, and then grabs Scylla's hand, and they interlock their little fingers, and then Scylla grips her hand back, and it's the cutest thing ever.
They're married now, guys.
So they're married now. Yeah, that was my take.
We thought it was Charvel's hand fasting, but really...
It wasn't.
It wasn't. It was Scylla and Rael's hand fasting.
We're furthering the ram's horn collar matriline merge.
Yes, we are.
But yeah, to me, I take that as little lesbian Jesus being like, I'm gonna wife you one day.
Yes, I will wife you. That was what she was saying.
That was a promise. So I love that scene. It's adorable.
It's so good.
And that was my takeaway from this whole ceremony.
Yeah, like that was my, like, I may have looked all of this stuff up, but really
it was about
my
that.
Takeaway was about that.
Tansy was marrying them, so they're married now.
Yeah.
And then Abigail's like, well, fuck, everybody's getting married in this ceremony. And then she makes eyes at some witch dude. Meanwhile, Tally has her hand, I don't know why she did this. Tally has her hand on Abigail's shoulder, like, aw, maybe we should get married. And then,
yeah, like, what are you trying to say?
I don't know. I have no read for that. It was just weird. And then Abigail's making eyes at the witch dude. And then Tally's like, aw, man, and like removes her hand awkwardly. It's so funny.
I'm like, do you just need some kind of reassurance and like physical contact right now, Tally? That was the only thing that would make sense. Is that Tally needs comfort.
Yes, she needs someone to hold her, is what she needs.
Yeah. She's like, Abigail, hold me. And Abigail's like, get off. No. I've got a dude over there.
Like, Raylla just got married. I'm going after that dude. Find your own dude. Or whoever.
Yeah.
So, that's a witch wedding, guys.
That's a witch wedding.
That's a witch wedding.
But, I guess... I mean, after everybody stomps, it's a...
Oh my god, yeah, I love that the marriage ceremony even has stomping. Like, oh my god.
Binding and stomping. And they weren't, like, breaking a glass or anything, like, in...
No, it's just, they're like,
just stomping.
We're good.
Stomp, we're good, let's go eat lobster.
Yeah.
Because now we're amongst we're at the reception now, and Abigail's walking around playing hostess. She puts on her, like, professional customer service voice or whatever when she's doing this.
Yeah, she's in hostess mode.
She's in hostess mode. So she gets to the unit who are all drinking champagne and eating, well, Tally's eating strawberries.
Okay, wait.
Stuff in her face.
Yes. The way Tally is eating those strawberries, has she never seen fruit before? Like,
yeah. And she's making Raylla sniff the apple?
Yeah, like, has she never seen these fruits before? I don't understand that.
She lived in California. They have fruit there.
Okay, as somebody who lives in California right now, this is where, like, all the produce comes from. Like,
yeah,
how has she not seen these fruits?
Tally, are you okay?
Right, is she okay?
Is she having a moment? I don't know.
I don't know. Tally needs help. This is a cry for help.
She does. She's stuffing her face with a strawberry. She's making Raylla.
She's eating her feelings.
She's eating her feelings. She's making Raylla smell apples.
Yeah.
For whatever unknown reason.
I don't know.
I hope that was like some kind of weird impromptu thing that they came up with. That was just a funny thing.
Oh my God.
But then
yes,
Abigail tells them to slow down, and I think she's worried that they're going to get drunk and screw up the meeting with the dean.
Yeah.
So Abigail's pretty much wound tighter than I don't even know what's
tighter than those hand fasting cords.
Thank you. Tighter than those hand fasting cords around Charvel's and Ciro's hands.
Yes.
Tally and Raylla are not worried about any of that. They have other things on their mind. And Scylla turns around all of a sudden in the cutest part of this scene that kills me every time. She leans in across Tally and says, "They have lobster."
It's so iconic and cute.
Just so iconic. There's so many memes of this, and I love it. The way the line is delivered.
That's all I think. Scylla's like, "Hey, you're freaking out about that apple? Check this out.
Check out the lobster, guys. That apple's nothing."
Right. But it's so iconic. Love it.
So but Tally immediately is like, "Give me the lobster."
Right. She's never seen food before. What is happening with Tally?
She's eating her feelings.
She is eating her feelings.
Tally is all over that lobster, and Abigail is frustrated with everyone's lack of taking this seriously.
Yeah.
So she walks away. All of a sudden, she comes upon General Clary and her mom and stops to give General Clary condolences about her daughter who died during the last episode. And we all were really sad about it because Clary had that one scene that was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But Mama Bellweather is kind of like, go the hell away. Like, get out of here. We're discussing a coup, and you can't be here for it.
Yeah. Before we get into coup talk, I just want to say when she delivers that line to Clary, Clary's response, like Clary's face immediately falls. And like her thank you to Abigail, it just sounds so hollow. Like,
yes,
Clary is obviously not still over this. And I just wanted to comment on the language that Abigail uses when she's like giving condolences. She says regarding her daughter, she's like, "May she journey home and sing the song of the spiral with our foremothers." And so I was like, what on earth does that mean? So just to comment, the song of the spiral. So it's referring to this song that was sung during this dance called the Spiral Dance. And basically it was something, as far as I can tell, that started in Berkeley, California recently as part of this feminist neo-paganism demonstration that was intended to meld art and politics. It doesn't do that now. Now it exists currently as a Samhain ritual to celebrate and honor the dead and celebrate rebirth. So that's why Abigail's saying this. And the song she's referring to is like this like chanting, drumming kind of song. And so I'll link it if you want to listen to it, but it is a real thing to like honor the death and rebirth. And just Clary's like, "I can't hear this right now." And it really hurts to see General Clary's response to this.
Right. She's compartmentalizing, and then Abigail brings it up.
Yeah,
and that's also why Mama Bellweather was a little bit like, not now.
I feel bad for Abigail because I don't think Abigail really understands the context here. And she's trying to be like the good daughter and be like, "Yes, I'm giving my condolences to the general." And like, Mama's like, no, not right now. This is not okay.
This is what I'm supposed to do, Mom. And Mom's like, no.
Right. And it's just like, I feel like it's another dig for Abigail where she's like, "I just can't win today with you, Mom."
No matter what she does, it's wrong.
Yeah, she feels like she's not good enough, like this whole episode.
Yeah.
That's the Spiral Dance, guys, and the Spiral Song.
So I'm really glad you looked that up. And we have that aspect, and then we have when Abigail leaves, they start talking about General Alder and how she's had quite enough time to do something about the spree. and maybe leadership should change, which Anacostia overhears all of this. And we know that Anacostia's loyalties lie with Alder, seeing as she was sort of a mother to her. And I just thought it was, here's the start, guys. Here's the start of Petra making her move.
Yeah, because we saw in the last episode the Petra Alder Big Witch Energy contest where just Petra's frustrated that she can't be in charge beyond Alder. And so she's preying on the other people who were like, let's get extreme. We need extreme actions. And Petra's like, well, what's more extreme than getting rid of Alder? Because maybe we just need new leadership.
She's sowing seeds is what she's doing. So she's finding people that are vulnerable to her cause, which, hello, who else does that?
The Spree.
Spree!
Right. So the army's just as bad.
Yeah. So they use similar tactics, guys. Just saying.
Yep.
But so she's sowing these seeds of contempt and putting her ideas into Clary's mind.
Yep.
So that Clary will take that, run with it, and then talk to other people about it in confidence.
Yeah. And even Petra's like in this scene, she brings it up again. She's like, I have friends in The Hague. She forgets that. Because like
exactly.
The other thing Elliot talks about with the Bellweathers is like, remember, they're wealthy and they have political connections. So like if anybody is going to be successful in ousting Alder in a coup, it's Petra. So she's like, look, I'm a perfect candidate for this. We can actually do this.
She's the only one that's set up with the power and the position to do it. And Clary would know that. Everyone in the officers would know that.
Yep.
So I just is amazing to me that does Petra not think that this is going to get back to Alder?
Maybe it's her hubris where she's like, we're at my wedding, not my wedding, a Bellweather wedding with all my people. And like all the dialogue about Petra that you hear throughout the rest of this episode, it's just like, oh yeah, she's the greatest. She's the best. So like everybody's pro Petra who's at this wedding. So maybe that's the hubris component.
It has to be because Anacostia is right the heck there. It's like Scylla burning her face off when Raylla's right down the... They're not subtle.
No, I've said this before. Everybody on this show is a bad spy. They're all bad at it. Even the ones at the top, they're all bad.
Yeah, so... you know Anacostia is going to go right on back to Alder and be like, hey, Petra be trying to get you... I mean, and it's not like Alder doesn't know that, but concrete moves are being made. So
totally.
That's a new thing.
Yeah, so you start seeing that, like, it's building, basically, this Petra versus Alder thing.
Just another little piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. But speaking of Mama Costia...
Here we go.
While we're on this train, I have to ask... why is she at this wedding, first of all? Because think about this. This is Charvel's wedding. This isn't Abigail's wedding. What is Mama Costia doing at this wedding? Just throwing that out there. Because let's talk about what was Isadora doing off screen. Because Mama Costia's at this wedding, who has no stake in Charvel. I kind of get why Tansy's there, because Tansy's there to, like, facilitate. Kind of get why Clary's there. So, like, all these people are there that we've all been introduced to, including Mama Costia. I feel like Alder was probably invited because this is the big wedding, but Alder's like, I got shit to do. I have to run the army. Like, what am I going to do? Leave Isadora in charge? That would be terrible. So my question is, why wasn't Isadora invited to this wedding? Because we were robbed of Isadora at a wedding. And so what was Isadora doing off screen? If Isadora was invited, this would have been amazing. Let's picture this for a moment, because there's other people at this wedding who aren't witches. Like, all the witches are in their military uniform. And then I feel like there's other, like, wealthy people at the wedding who are just humans, right? Who are just chilling. What if Isadora was at the wedding trying to mingle with these people? You know she can't do small talk. She would just start talking about, she'd be like, hey, did you know you can make dead bodies talk if there's enough sex energy? And all these people are just like, what?
I'm sorry, what?
And Isadora dancing like nobody's watching on the dance floor. We were robbed of that.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying, is that we were robbed of her trying to make small talk with non-witches, her dancing, her just like...
being excited about whatever food was available.
Spouting necrofacts to random people. Like, we were robbed. So because Isadora was not at the wedding, we were robbed of this. So she's just off screen in her little necro lab still, but we were robbed.
I think it's a good time for me to put in my what was XYZ character doing off screen.
Yes! Who is it?
My character is Libba.
Yes! Oh my god. What was Libba doing off screen? I need to know.
So it's obviously a Bellweather wedding, so the Swipes are not invited.
No, definitely. They're not partying with Isadora, but they're not invited.
She's not partying with Isadora. What she's doing is she's back in her room. She's kicked all of her unit out, and she's got this secret part of, they all have their little dress. What is it? Like the cabinet where they keep their uniforms and shit.
Like a chiffrobe closet.
Yeah, like a little closet. So she's got this little part of her closet set aside, and it's hidden. But what she's doing is taking care of her Abigail altar.
Oh my god, yes! She's doing a love spell. I love it.
A love spell. So yeah, she's got this little hidden altar set up for Abigail, and she likes to pretend that it's for her to curse Abigail, but really it's for her to appreciate Abigail.
That's what she told the one unit mate that found it. She's like, "This is my curse wall. This
is my curse wall. This is the person that I'm cursing."
But why are there hearts? It's
like, what the heck? And yes, there are marks where I've thrown darts at the pictures, but it's out of love.
It's out of love. I mean, hate.
hate. I mean,
oh my god, I love
that's
that.
what Libba was doing off screen.
So Isadora was not partying, and then Libba was doing love spells. I love it. Yes. Oh my god, that was such a great character to pick for this episode. I love it. Love it. But unfortunately, we have to leave the off-screen characters and go back to the on-screen characters. So we're back at the wedding, and
let's threaten Scylla again.
Oh my god! First thing I want to note is the first thing we see before we get to Mama Cassia versus Scylla round 2 is the clock, and so this clock will keep coming up because Scylla has her choice to make, and time is not on her side, basically. And I want to note that there's a Latin phrase on the clock, and it says Novus Ordo Seclorum. And what that means is a new order of the ages, or to put it better, the birth of a new era, basically, because that's the theme of this episode. So Scylla keeps looking at this clock that says this phrase and will eventually make her choice that leads her to a new era for Scylla and a new era for literally everybody else at this party. So it's the lighthouse beach metaphor all over again. This is what's on Scylla's mind. She has this choice to make. And this is like major foreshadowing, is like this phrase. And so with that, Raylla and Scylla are dancing among the guests, and she's checking the clock. It's 4:15 p.m. right now. And Mama Cassia is creepily lurking on the perimeter, watching them intensely because she's still not over the Salva scene for some reason. And Scylla notices that Raylla is getting angry when she sees Mama Cassia. And Scylla's
be here with me.
Oh my god, it's so cute. She draws Raylla in with her eyes because that's always her power move. And she's like, hey, ignore her. Be with me. Or like, we can just like ditch this place and go to the beach. Let's go do that. Let's go do that. And Raylla's like in protective girlfriend wife mode. And she's like, no. I'm not letting her kick you out. This is bullshit. Not today. And she flips on her Big Witch energy and goes off to have a Big Witch energy measuring contest with Anacostia on Scylla's behalf. So this is the second Big Witch energy measuring contest for Scylla, where Raylla by proxy is doing the Big Witch energy off.
She has a champion.
She does. Because Raylla's all in, even when it comes to this. So she confronts Mama Cassia, and Mama Cassia's like, yeah, Salva girl, your name is not on the list. Which, why does Mama Cassia know the names on the list?
Yeah, like, did you write the list, Mama Cassia? I don't understand. What are you doing?
Right. Why is she at the wedding? First of all, it's Charvel's wedding. I get why all the other generals are there, because it's high Atlantic stuff. Why is Mama Cassia here? She's a fosterling.
The only thing I can think of is that she's Alder's proxy.
Maybe. I'm not coming, Petra. I'm sending Anacostia. Yeah, maybe. But why does she know the guest list? Is Alder needs to know the guest list, so I need to know the guest list.
Yeah, like this is a security thing.
Right. Which,
I don't know.
I don't get it, but sure. Whatever, Mama Castia. She's mad about the Salva stuff still. And Raylla is like, listen, get over it. She puts her arm out defensively in front of Scylla and steps in front of Scylla, and she's like, no. She's not going anywhere. She goes where I go. Scylla's my girlfriend. And you're not going to talk to her this way because I'm Lesbian Jesus. Don't do that. You don't want to see my powers. And Scylla is just watching this in the background like, well, hot damn. All right. I like this. I like this. And Raylla doesn't really get a chance to like whip out all the big witch energy because Tally jumps in because there's a unity unit thing going on. She needs Raylla right now. And Raylla's like, fine, okay, Tally, calm down. But she doesn't leave without first checking to make sure Scylla's okay because wife material. And when Scylla's like, yeah, I'm not afraid of this woman. You just won the big witch energy mentoring contest for me. We're good. Raylla has to very abruptly and gaily kiss Scylla for like 30 seconds. And poor Tally is like, I got the unity unit thing. And she's like feebly trying to pull Raylla away. And Mama Costia is just there rethinking all of her life choices that led her to witnessing this gay nonsense. And she's like, oh my God, why am I even at this wedding? And so Tally and Raylla go off to do the unity unit thing, and leaving Mama Costia and Scylla. And Mama Costia's like, brings up all the previous threats for the Salva stuff. She's like, I thought I told you to stay away from that girl. And so Scylla, without her proxy, now has to flip on her own big witch energy. And she's like, okay, well, I couldn't stay away from her, which is true because she was a spree agent test to get Raylla. But that has a double meaning now, which she explains. I have deep feelings for her and she does for me. And when she delivers that, like, Mama Costia pauses for a second and just, like, sits with that statement. And I think she's kind of like, okay, I think she believes that that's true, like, in this moment. And Scylla keeps going and then defends Raylla. And she's like, hey, don't take this out on Raylla. Like, this was all me. I disobeyed your orders. And Mama Costia's like, yeah, you did. And you also took advantage of a new recruit, which, like, how?
What?
Right. Again, I do not understand. Like, Mama Costia has a reason to not like Scylla because she's in the spree, but like she doesn't know that yet. So I don't understand where all this contempt from Scylla comes from, really. And Scylla's like, I don't get this either. And she's like, have you seen her in training? She's been improving since I've come around. Like, I'm a positive influence. And like, there it is, because, you know, she's keeping Raylla charged up all the time. And so she's like, do you not see that? She's much better at stuff. And Mama Costia challenges her. She's like, Raylla doesn't need you. She has her own gifts. What on earth does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean? Is it just her that she's... What are you seeing that we're not seeing, Anacostia, at this point? Is there something missing that we're not getting because of time constraints? Is everyone thinks Raylla's got all of this power and we don't know why?
Yeah. I was having trouble rationalizing this from Mama Costia's point of view, because Scylla brings it up again later. And I think that Scylla, because, you know, they fool around, I think that Scylla can tap into her power and understands that Raylla's powerful through their connection.
Right.
Mama Costia makes less sense, unless we go back to the pilot where Abigail and Raylla, remember when they got in their physical altercation and like the hurricane came towards the building? Right. I'm wondering if like it's because of that stuff, because they like, but again, it was the two of them. So I don't really understand where that comes from. Like the fixing gifts, I feel like that's expected because of who Willicala was. So I don't fully understand this sentence from Mama Costia. It's
the only thing that you've just made me kind of think through it. And the only thing I can figure is that yes, that it's because of the unit thing, but every time the unit is together and they basically get their shit together, they're more powerful than anyone else there.
Yeah, so maybe she means it. She's gifted
in that regard.
Yeah, she's gifted as part of the unit. It's just the way yeah, go ahead, sorry.
And the way the way that she thinks that Scylla's interfering with that is the only thing I can figure is that she thinks that Scylla is causing a rift between Raylla and the unit. So is that what she's saying? But it still doesn't make sense for her to get that intense that quickly. Does she know something about Scylla that we don't know as far as what she's done in the past?
Yeah, that's the part that's super murky. And I think your rationalization can make sense to an extent, but like, again, from Mama Costia's point of view, it doesn't cover everything, right? Of the whole situation of her hating Scylla from the Salva scene till now there's something missing that's never explained.
We're missing a piece, and it really gets on my nerves.
Yeah. And like, again, I understand that Raylla's powerful. Again, call back to her name, meaning the chosen one. Like, yes. But I don't understand what Mama Costia is actually referring to here. I think the unit stuff, maybe, but I think there's something else we just are not getting. But
we're not privy to it yet. No. And also, what could play into it is Alder taking an interest.
Yeah.
Which to Anacostia is something very important, considering how highly she values what Alder says and her agendas.
Yeah.
So maybe Alder's seen something in Raylla and the unit, or just Raylla that's beyond. I mean, because like you said, they reference how good her fixing powers are, and at one point talk about, later we're going to see her mother talked about and her power talked about, because apparently Willow was like a really powerful fixer. So, but what does that mean? Like, how does that translate to this? I don't get it.
I don't get it. But again, it definitely could be. It's just we're missing a piece of the puzzle, and we never get the puzzle piece. It's like it got lost when they were putting this together, and it's like, well, I really need that.
Elliot, come talk to us. We have questions.
Come on the podcast. We have so many questions.
Please come on the podcast, because we might keep you here for 5 years.
Yes. But gotta let him go finish the series. But anyway, I would love to pick his brain on that because something's missing. But anyway, so Raylla's super powerful. And then, of course, Mama Costia, again, her signature stuff when she's dealing with Scylla, she's like, starts threatening her. She's like, end this relationship, or like, I'm going to make life a living hell for you, Miss Ramsworn. And Scylla delivers her iconic, sarcastic AF line, yes, ma'am.
It's so... Oh my God, it drips. It just drips with sarcasm.
Oh, that delivery is so good.
It's so good. And I also want to note Scylla's face during this exchange.
Yes, please do.
It almost has this quality of evil mastermind. Like she's throwing on that veneer of I'm an evil mastermind, and you just like, she's plotting in her head. It was almost in a way like, holy shit, predatory.
This is Scylla delivering the final blow to win the Big Witch Energy contest with Mama Costume. She's like, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it's like, you may think that you have power here, but just wait.
I invented witch texting. Come on now.
I invented witch texting, and I'm going to get Raylla out of here.
Yeah, exactly. In Scylla's mind, she's like, I'm getting her out of here, and I'm
getting her out of here. We're leaving. We're running away.
Raylla just proposed like 5 minutes ago, so.
Raylla and I are married now. Yeah. You have no power here.
You have no power. Yes. No, totally. That is Scylla's headspace. You have no power. I have all the power. Oh, okay, girl.
And I love that line
so good.
Where Raylla says, are you okay? And Scylla says, if you're asking if I'm afraid, no. She's not afraid of Anacostia at all.
No.
I really think that she could win in a fight, but.
Yeah, same. Again, Scylla's the most powerful witch on the show, and everybody underestimates her.
Yeah.
She could totally win. I believe that wholeheartedly. You are correct. But after she delivers that iconic, beautiful line, Mama Costia is like, okay, and backs away from Scylla. And then when she finally turns around, you start to see Scylla like kind of panicking. Because again, she's on a time crunch, and now like somebody else is watching her, and she's got a mission to accomplish. She's got to get her head back in the game.
Yep, she's got to get her head back in the 6 p.m. deadline game.
Yep.
So now we get to Garrett the Disaster, as I like to call this scene, because...
well... It is.
God, it's a big disaster. So Tally pulls what Tally's big unity problem is that Garrett is at the wedding like she wanted. So she is beyond excited. I think she's going to pass out from hyperventilating or something. She's like a little rabbit who's just like,
Her little heart is going so fast. She can't contain her own thirst right now.
She cannot contain her thirst. I get it. She's totally in love with this boy.
Yeah.
Despite her misgivings about his being too smooth.
Mm-hmm.
So Abigail is standing at the table, and she's just looking like somebody kicked a dog, and that dog is Tally.
Yeah, Abigail's head is somewhere else.
She's looking stricken, and they're all just kind of looking at Garrett, and then Tally says, should I go talk to him? Raylla says yes. Abigail says no. And so Tally wasn't even waiting for them to say anything. She was just going.
That was a rhetorical question.
That was a rhetorical question. So Tally goes off to get Garrett, and Abigail informs Raylla that Garrett's wearing a blue sash, and in high Atlantic culture, that means he's engaged.
Ooh.
Oh, no. Tally gonna get her heart broken.
Yeah.
Tally gonna lose in this episode.
Yeah. New beginnings in the worst way.
She doesn't know that, though, because she has no way of knowing what high Atlantic customs are, so she pulls Garrett away from his little betrothed buddies, because he's talking to other engaged dudes over there, and they're in the woods kissing. Garrett's trying to get in a word to tell her about the sash, but Tally keeps interrupting him to A, talk about the codices, B, kiss him, and ask him why he's so smooth and if it was all just an act. So he has to answer her on that front and say no, he's really, really into her because she's a breath of fresh air, unlike all the high Atlantic girls he grew up with. So he really does have feelings for her, the poor guy. However, he cannot get the words out to tell her that he's betrothed, if you will.
Yeah.
So he wants to be with only her, but they need to talk. But Tally doesn't want to talk. She just wants to make out.
Yeah.
And then we go back to Raylla, who's going back to Scylla and apologizes for leaving her alone with Anacostia. And the line that Scylla says back just tickles me because she says, Anacostia is intense. Yeah, because she's for some reason hates you and we don't know why.
Right, I love that word. She's like, oh, she's intense after she just threatened me again.
She threatened my life again, but she's intense. Scylla thanks Raylla for what she said, and Raylla kind of demurs and says, well, what did I say? Scylla is kind of like embarrassed a little bit, I think, and doesn't want to say it. And so Raylla says, oh, the girlfriend part? And then Scylla confirms that is indeed what she was talking about. And they look so cute and happy and in love. And it's too bad because this is Motherland and it won't last.
But like soak in the lesbian Jesus charm there because it was so good.
It was so good.
Good.
Talking of smooth, Garrett has nothing on lesbian Jesus.
Well, no one does. That's why he's always trying to steal her like energy.
Yeah, he is.
Because he needs help.
Get off lesbian Jesus's energy. So they go dance and they're looking all cheerful and in love. We transition to Charvel.
Oh, wait. Before we leave, Scylla makes the comment about what Anacostia told her. And she's like, well, apparently, according to your drill sergeant, you're a very gifted student. Again, and Raylla's like, yeah, okay. There's no way she said that. But again, I feel like Scylla knows something about Raylla's powers.
Where does everyone get their information about Raylla that we don't know?
I think Scylla can feel her powers.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, doing their thing.
I'm sorry, but they've linked, and
yes, they've linked via passion. We'll put it that way. But
I don't think Raylla is as clued in on Scylla's, because I think Scylla's really good at blocking access to her inner self, and Raylla is not, because she's everything's on her shoulders and just all her feelings are out there.
Yes, it's that. It's linked because again, we see their powers come out when they're emotional, and Raylla is always an open book, like with her emotions. She's a slave to them, and Scylla very much has a handle on her own emotions. So I agree with you. I think Scylla can feel Raylla's powers because Raylla doesn't know how to control it yet, and Scylla, it's not reciprocated because Scylla's hiding the depth of her powers from like everyone, which is why everyone's always underestimating her.
And at the same time, strangling her and threatening her.
Jesus Christ. But yeah, I found that line very interesting because I think Scylla knows something about Raylla's powers.
I agree with you. And I'd also say that Scylla's trying to tell Raylla that she's powerful and shouldn't take anyone's shit.
Yeah, no, totally. Totally. Raylla does not understand she's powerful. There's no way.
Yeah, no, she is so far down I think she's down the I'm a shitbird lane mentality as well.
Yeah.
Yes, we transition to Charvel, who's dancing with Ciro, and Abigail comes by. She's not having fun, so Charvel gives her a flask. Because that's how you party in Charvel land. You get drunk.
At your own wedding, yes.
Witch's tears.
Witch's tears.
So Charvel asks what's wrong, finally, and Abigail says that she's meeting with the dean and her soup kitchen of a unit is dragging her down. So do you have any advice? Can we go back to the fact that she called them a soup kitchen?
Yeah, not an animal insult. The soup kitchen.
We're in like soup kit. What the hell, Abigail?
Right. I don't know.
First a nattering nay horse, and now soup kitchen. This is
can't.
a new one. Jeez, I guess our writing this episode kind of veered away from the animal insults.
Yeah, Joy was not on the animal train like Elliot is, and was like, soup kitchen, we're using that. Let's mix it up.
We're gonna use soup kitchen. But Charvel tells her that she's already in War College because she's a Bellweather and she should just ride her name. And Abigail is not into that. She wants to be more than her name. She wants to make her own mark. But again, Charvel brushes this off and is more interested in Abigail helping her into her dress than she is managing Abigail's privilege. Charvel tells her to meet her upstairs. But also, that's when Abigail's new witch dude comes up and the Misandry Unlimited train comes into town.
Yeah,
which should be Abigail's tagline, Misandry Unlimited.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Yes.
It's like Misandry are us. Because
oh my god,
she takes her man off for an interview energy boost, which is going to be 10 minutes max.
10 minutes max. That's all she needs.
So that's all I need is 10 minutes of your energy boost, and then I'm throwing you away.
Yeah, Misandry army.
Because he's like, I should tell you I'm here with someone else. She's like, I don't give a fuck.
I need you for 10 minutes. It doesn't matter.
He's like, 10 minutes. Just let's go. And she's not going to mind.
No.
So, I love it. I love that Abigail just whenever she needs a dude, she goes and finds one, gets her charge, and that's the end of that.
Again, Abigail's fuckboy energy.
Mm-hmm. And she thinks every other time the charge up has kind of helped her fix her problems, but I don't think it's going to be as effective this time.
No. Before we move on, I just wanted to go back to the managing your privilege line, because I love this line. Because it's Charvel delivering it to Abigail, and she's saying, hey, check your privilege about the whole War College thing, which is interesting because Abigail's actually doing the opposite. Abigail is coming to the realization that she spent her whole life as under this Bellweather shadow, and she's trying to figure out who Abigail is and be Abigail. But everybody's like, hey, you're a Bellweather, it's going to be fine, like, you're privileged, like, just stop freaking out about this. But Abigail is actually trying to actively step out of her privilege. So I find that line very, very fascinating because it's the opposite of what Abigail is doing. Abigail is trying to, like, get in of her own merit, not because of the name. I love it.
And it points out what she's doing.
Yeah, and I think it also, we'll get into this a little bit more as this kind of progresses, but I think it kind of like, again, Charvel and Abigail are kind of like foiling each other, whereas like Charvel is what Abigail will be if Abigail just goes down the Bellweather path, no questions asked. So Charvel got into War College because she's privileged and was aware of it, and is in this big position with this giant fancy wedding with everybody who's important there because she followed the Bellweather playbook. And so yeah, I just love it because you see that Abigail's trying to break out of this, which is...
She's trying to diverge, and Charvel's saying, you know what, sit back and chill and just do the Bellweather playbook.
Exactly.
Stop worrying about it.
Yeah.
I got married today and I want to be happy. So I'm going to party, and I'm not really here to talk about this with you right now.
Yeah, I'm going to wear a dress because we never get to do that. So
yeah,
help me get that shit on.
But later we see that Charvel does really care about Abigail, so...
Yeah, no, totally.
But yeah. So we kind of go back to Scylla and Raylla for a hot second, and once again, Scylla's looking at her watch. She's very concerned about the time, and we all know why, except for poor Raylla. But she still looks happy dancing, which is so cute.
I know. There's this just like happy, flirty look on her face when they're dancing. And like Scylla's just in it with Raylla right now. She is not on a mission. It's so cute.
So cute. Every time she looks at her watch, she gets a harsh reminder of why she's there and what she's doing. But then she just like clocks out of that.
Yeah.
And goes right back to Raylla. And you can tell it's so different from earlier episodes where she was for example, focused on going to get that dead body taken care of. So
Yes, when Scylla made her baby step, it was a big deal for Scylla. So you see the effects of that.
like we've said before, Scylla making baby steps is different for her than it is for other people.
Yeah, exactly. This is big, and you see the baby step it's going into like full leaps at this point.
She makes a 180 instead of just kind of turning in incremental degrees.
Exactly. So it's very sad, but she only has an hour left. It's a very sad reminder to her, but she's making the most of her time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I cry now?
Now I've been crying this whole time. What are you talking about?
Damn!
No, I'm kidding.
You look fresh for having cried.
It's inside. I'm internalizing
on the
it.
inside. Yeah, we're crying on the inside.
I cried when I watched this episode for real. So the first time. Yeah, so we go from that really cute little dancing scene over to thirsty Tally, who's still making out with Garrett in the gardens, wherever on Earth they are. And Tally is just so thrilled to have Garrett. And again, she's in her fantasy head, where she's like, I got the guy I want. Great, let's go live our best life. And she's like, we should go back to the party. And Garrett's like, no, we can't. And Tally's like, wait, what do you mean? Yes, we can. We're at a party. Let's go party. And Garrett's like, listen, calm down. Like, I want to be with you. Like, let's just throw this out there. I do. And then he says, I love you, which, like, okay, again, drinking the lesbian Jesus juice because it's been 3 days and he's already in love with Tally. So that's so fast for the two of them. Oh my God.
It's not like they were living in the same place like Raylla and Scylla were.
No.
Like, Raylla and Scylla could see each other every day if they really made the effort and skipped out on things. But Tally and freaking Garrett don't live in the same place. They've seen each other one time.
Yeah, like it was like literally 3 days of like, it was like pre-Beltane, Beltane the day after. That was it.
And they weren't together that whole time.
No.
There was like periods of them being together. Sometimes they were even around other people.
Right. Explain this to me. This is
talk about U-Haul.
Right. This is fast even for queer people, and they're not queer people. So what is happening in this scene? But then Garrett gives this again, this is a recurring theme with all of these confessions. You have to believe me that I love you no matter what happens. And he says this like he's going off to war and he's never going to see Tally ever again.
Where are you going? Back to make some more gorgeous?
He's like, part 2 of the Wooing Witches book is coming out, so like, just believe me before this changes my game.
Just believe me. I gotta read up to get some more.
And Tally, just hook, line, and sinker. I love you too. And oh,
damn it, Tally!
Sweet summer child. Poor Tally. Oh my God. But then the horn blows because Tansy is like, listen, I see y'all. Where's the rest? We have to finish the ceremony. What the hell? Everybody get back here. And Garrett panics and is like, listen, I'll explain everything later. I gotta go. And he runs away. And we go back to where the wedding ceremony was happening and people are gathered now. And we come to find out that part of, I guess, one marriage is announcing the other marriages in the high Atlantic culture. And the last announcement from our junior matrimonialist is that Garrett is engaged. And so he has the blue sash and he's going to be off the market for 5 years. And poor Tally witnesses this and is hearing this from somebody else while staring at Garrett from like across this field. And it's just
devastating.
Like that dagger on the altar went into my heart. That's what the dagger was for, because that hurt so bad.
Yeah.
And like Raylla's next to Tally and like grabs her hand and is just like feeling the secondhand sadness for her.
Yeah.
And then of course, this is when the Dean of War College, Coral Hallmont, decides to come talk to the unit at like the worst possible time.
Yep.
And Tally is just like bawling because her fantasy has just been destroyed. And so she's now processing this in front of the dean. And Abigail's like, oh, fuck. And tries to take over and be like, hey, Dean, yeah, let's go talk. Petra's like, hey, go talk in the den. And they're like, yeah, okay. And then the dean notices Tally, who's having a breakdown. And it's like, are you okay? And Tally's just like, I gotta go. And just leaves. And Raylla, being a good bestie, goes after her, leaving Abigail with the dean. And then Abigail's like, of course this isn't going the way I wanted it to go with my shitbird unit. So
her soup kitchen.
So she's like, listen, I'm sorry about the soup kitchen. I'll work on them. And the dean's like, yeah, no, don't worry about it. Cool. It was nice to meet you, but I'm going to go get some food from the buffet. And Abigail's like, wait a minute. No. Like, don't you want to like interview me? Aren't we supposed to talk about like my credentials and like what I bring to the table? And the dean is like, listen, you're a Bellweather. That's all I need to know. It's the least I can do for your mom. Again, it's like, this isn't about you, Abigail. This is about the Bellweather legacy. Like, your mom's a big deal. She's like the mistress of blasters. Of course, I'm going to let her daughter in. We'd be stupid not to. Abigail is just like, you just see her world crumbling around her. She's like, what the hell? You know, like, this isn't about me. And I guess it never was.
She's tetherless. She doesn't have a purpose right now because even sleepwalking, we'd let you in. That line was just, oh my God, like seriously a big blow to Abigail. She's like, so I don't matter. Just my family matters. And that's the only thing I'm known for. And as we know, Abigail just wants to be known for what she can do and who she is.
Yeah. And Ashley talks about this in After the Storm. And basically, like, this is her big coming to terms with being a Bellweather moment, where it's like the name carries a lot of weight. And throughout this whole time, we really saw Abigail just being like, I got to get into War College. I got to get into War College. I got to get into War College. And now she gets this realization that like her name is going to get her there. And Ashley said this changes her whole perspective about the military, which is huge, coming from a character who's so entrenched in this culture. And her realization is, well, why am I working so hard for this if I'm just going to get in? Like the privilege thing, like Charvel was saying. And so this is, per Ashley, a crossroads for Abigail. And this is like her biggest challenge, is like reconciling all this stuff. And like, well, do I want to just be a Bellweather or do I want to be Abigail? And so this is a big moment for Abigail.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's like, again, the callback to the beach name, labor in pain. Like, this is a rebirth for Abigail that's coming with this pain of like, and you just see it on her face when the dean just was like, whatever, Abigail, don't worry about it. We're going to let you in.
It's like she was suffering under her own illusions of what her mother wanted her purpose to be for this whole time, because she thought that it was her that was the special one that needed to get it done. And really, it's done for her already. And it's heartbreaking to watch Abigail go through that, because up to that point, she had been so confident, and now she doesn't even know who she is, in a way. Her identity is up in the air.
Exactly. That's what it is. An identity crisis. That's what Abigail's going through. Well said. So,
yeah. She's only known by her name and by her last name.
Exactly.
And Raylla was right all along. That's also a big thing, because Raylla kept bringing it up. You're Bellweather, Bellweather, Bellweather. But Abigail didn't see it that way. And now I think that's probably part of what's hitting her, is people were right to be saying, oh, well, you're only getting this because you're a Bellweather.
Privilege check.
Privilege check. Party of one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. So Raylla went after Tally, and she catches up to Tally, but Tally's not really in the mood to be talking about this with someone right now. She just wants to be alone. And so she goes off and leaves Raylla in the hallway. But guess who's there? Petra, and she's holding court, talking about her plans for Abigail's hand fasting.
Again, that's where her mind is the whole time.
Babies and hand fasting. Gotta get my daughter into having the sakes and the babies.
Jesus.
So awkward.
So awkward.
I feel weird now.
Yeah.
So she's talking to these people who I can only assume are potential mates for Abigail, like the family of and the boy.
Right.
And basically trying to sell her daughter like she's a piece of meat.
Yeah, I mean, is this not what like high society people do with their kids?
Exactly.
Like, they're always trying to sell them off to other high society families. This is no different, apparently.
We're gonna make some really important babies.
Right.
These babies will be more important than all the other babies that are born.
Right. That literally is this conversation.
Well, and it also in this respect comes with the if you have two powerful people come together and make a baby, the baby will be more powerful. So that's the idea. We're breeding witches, guys. We're breeding witches.
Yeah, it's not about like, okay, so like the Romeo and Juliet thing. It's not about like consolidating power, meaning money through marriages. It's about making more powerful witches to consolidate your power and make your name. So it's kind of a similar concept, but by making daughters, basically, is the idea.
But they're making the same mistakes that humans have made for centuries in trying to put these people together that they think, oh, well, they have good breeding. We'll put them together and they'll create a more powerful being.
Yes.
But what do we know about how animals and people survive in the world? It's survival of the fittest. So really, what's being the most powerful creatures would probably be crossed with other types of power and magic and whatever. So maybe that factors into some things that we don't even know about yet.
It's simple genetics, really. You have a situation where the number of witches are dwindling in general, and then you're trying to breed witches with witches. So you're going to see genetic abnormalities that aren't good when recessive stuff starts popping out.
Exactly. So we're in science land, and apparently no one in the witch community is there with us.
I feel like Isadora is somewhere sounding off this alarm, but they're like, this is matrimonious territory.
Yeah, like, get out of here, Isadora.
Isadora, I don't care about your mushroom demonstration that proves this. Like, get out of here.
And she's like, fine, I'll go back to the mycelium and pretend to make love to it.
And then they're like, this is why we don't invite you to weddings, Isadora.
Yeah, this is why you're in your lab during all the weddings.
Because she lectures them about breeding.
They keep Isadora away from all the matrimonialists.
Again, we were robbed of drunk Isadora going off about genetics and breeding. And I'm so mad that we could have had that on screen, guys. But now it's an off-screen fantasy stuff. This is my off-screen fantasy, Isadora.
Thank you. And that's why when I was creating my Isadora edit, I really wanted to put some science stuff in the background, but nothing looked right. So
no, yeah, you can't. I was thinking helices, but I was like, that doesn't work.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going with at first, and I was like, none of these look right. So it didn't work out. I'm sure I'll get it at another point. But anyway, traveling away from the breeding.
Back to this awkward conversation in the Lesbian Jesus light, by the way.
Yes. So we're in Lesbian Jesus light.
We sure are.
Raylla walks up to the important people.
She sure does.
Yeah. So she walks past them at first, but then she stops and she turns around and she's like, no. This day is about me confronting some bitches.
Yeah, it is. I was just thinking, I'm like, this parallels the Mama Costi thing where she's like, not today.
Not today, Satan.
Yeah.
Not today, rich people.
Yeah, literally, yes.
Eat the rich.
You're going to hear my drawl that I don't have.
Yeah, my session drawl that I don't have. Hey, I'm from where the session is, so I can...
You can draw all you want, Bree.
Well... I can try. It comes out naturally if I talk to my mom.
I get that.
Anyway, so Raylla turns on her heel and goes right back into confrontation mode. She walks up and bumps her way in to see Petra. Like, she's pushing people out of the way.
Like important people?
Yeah, important people. And she's like, excuse me.
Because Raylla loves the army. She's got her best manners on.
She's like, best manners, get the fuck out of my way.
Right.
So she walks up, and you could tell all of this emotion that she's been holding on to since she even found out that Mama Bellweather was the CO on her mom's last mission. It's just seething right under the surface. So she starts by saying that a lot of things went wrong on her mom's last mission, things that could have been done differently. And in our minds, we know she's blaming Petra for this, and so does Petra.
Mm-hmm.
So Petra just like cuts this shit off real quick with compliments and starts complimenting Willa Collar, saying she was one of the bravest soldiers that she ever knew, and she was the fixer that every unit wanted to deploy with. And you can tell Raylla is thrown off by this approach. So she stays quiet while Petra keeps going about how her mother's unconventional methods delivered incredible results.
Ding. Because
Ding.
like her daughter, Willa Collar, did not follow the status quo with the army. So
No, she didn't.
love
Her
it.
fixer line is a little bit different than other fixer lines. She doesn't use the conventional methods of fixing, as we've seen Raylla not use the conventional methods of fixing. So Petra continues by saying countless lives were saved because of Willa. And from what she understands, Raylla has followed in Willa's footsteps by trying to save Porter, and that she wishes Willa could have been there today with them because she would have been so proud of Raylla. And then Petra hugs her, which Raylla is not at all here for. She looks so uncomfortable and on the verge of tears. She's about to break down. It's super stiff and awkward, but Raylla just kind of like gets through it without bursting into a breakdown. But we also see, which is interesting to me, I feel like Petra's showing real emotion. Like she means what she's saying.
Yeah.
As much as she's doing this to head off Raylla's confrontation, she's also showing that she's a human being and does have feelings and can acknowledge that other people have gifts and are special that aren't as privileged or as rich or as up in the high ranks as she is. So she's acknowledging that for Raylla, and Raylla doesn't know how to process that. She just knew she was going in hot with this confrontation and was going to tell Mama Bellweather off, but it gets turned right around on her, and we kind of see Petra's way of, it was part manipulation in my mind, and also part she just was feeling it when she saw Raylla tearing up and getting emotional. So it was kind of like a double whammy there. But this whole time, I'm gonna say about halfway through this conversation, Scylla shows up outside the window, and she's like looking in, being like, what is going on in there? What's up? What you doing to my girl? But Raylla finally sees her, and she lets go of Petra and says, I wish she could have been there too, and then leaves. So Petra has successfully diffused that situation. Not too much damage has been done with the important people. And we're back to Raylla's just off in a tizzy of emotional mom turmoil.
Yeah, she got Willa Collar triggered again in this
Mhm.
conversation. I have to ask though. So at the beginning
Mhm.
of this whole thing with Petra and Raylla, we see Scylla in the window. Then we see her again at the end. How long was she lingering in this window?
Oh, she was totally there the whole time.
She's just like, did nobody be like, what the hell what are you doing, girl?
No,
She's just staring through this window.
She's up against the glass.
I know.
Covering her, like, so she can see in there because it's a little bit darker. She's just like looking in this window and people are passing by going, all right, cool.
Scylla's not subtle. That's all I'm saying. Like, she's just
she's not subtle.
She's just
obvious.
staring at this window. It's hilarious.
It's like she was staring in that window like she was at a zoo.
Yeah, I mean, because what she's looking at is unnatural. A Bellweather hugging like the session girl. Like, it is weird.
Petra's hugging Raylla. What is that about?
Very weird. But yeah, she was in that window for a while, just pointing that out.
She was.
Which is...
Unlike Porter, who can appear and disappear in milliseconds.
She like hangs out where it's obvious she's being a bad spy. So we leave that mama triggering scene and go over to Abigail and Charvel. And so Abigail is helping Charvel get into her fancy dress. She's got her headpiece on, and they're having all this talk about how today's great, and Abigail's happy for Charvel. They have banter, like Charvel's like, where are my earrings? You're supposed to like be putting me into this fancy outfit. What the hell, Abigail? And you get the affection and like the cute, like they're almost like siblings, like the two of them. It's kind of how I see them. They're having like sibling banter.
Yep.
And when they're talking kind of about Charvel's new marriage and like the fact that it's 5 years, how are you going to deal with this? You get this sense that Charvel is very disillusioned with this whole army culture and the Bellweather name, the way she answers Abigail. Because Abigail's still very much like, I got to get into war college. I got to be the next great Bellweather. Like, even though she's grappling with who is Abigail versus who is the Bellweather, Charvel is like over it, basically. And she's like, I'm just trying to have fun. I'm just trying to have fun. Today's about me. Today's not about the army. Today's about me having fun and wearing a dress and like being Charvel. And when they're having this conversation, like Abigail gets onto the marriage territory and she's like, I can't believe you're going to give 5 years of beauty and youth away to one dude. Because again, Abigail's a fuckboy. She's like, I don't want to do this. This sounds terrible. And Charvel's like, listen, it's not as restrictive as they make it sound. It's more like a lend, it'll be fine. And but this is what bellwethers do. When we're not up winning wars, we're making new bellwethers. Because again, I think Charvel's very disillusioned with all the bellwether stuff. She's like, I'm doing this because I have to, even though I don't want to be in this marriage. Like, let's be real. And it's almost like, again, it's like harping back to the fact that these people too, even those like living by the rules and those living in this army culture, they have no control over their life either. So call back to like Raylla and Scylla's fantasy escape scenario. They have no control over their life, so they just want to get out. Even those trapped in this are just like, I don't want to be here doing this stuff either, but I'm forced to because that's what bellwethers do, and I'm a bellwether, so I'm just doing this. It's like this predestined path, and Charvel's just on the ride, and she's like, I don't want it, but I'm on the ride. And then they talk about Ciro, which I love, and they're like, he's a great choice, and the conversation is not about him at all. It's like, yeah, his mom was like this great general and stuff, which I love. It's always about, again, it's about like, that's why they paired them together. They're like, hey, look at the daughter that could come of this union. That's what it's all about. It's not about who Ciro is. It's not about Charvel. It's about the future that they can bring to like the witch army. So again, it's like, it's not about them as people, harping back to like Abigail's whole conflict with everything. And then Abigail's again trapped in the illusion of this bellwether stuff, and she's like, well, goddess permits, you'll be pregnant and deployed soon. And Charvel's like, yeah, whatever, like, just like my mama. But like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Let's just like, I want to wear this dress and like have fun because we never get to do that. And Abigail pivots right back to the war college stuff. And she's like, Charvel, you're going to be a hard act to follow. Because it's almost like big sister, little sister. And Charvel's like, look, you're going to be fine. You're a bellwether. That's it. Like, just ride the name. And Abigail's like, that's what everybody keeps telling me. That's what the dean said. Nobody wants to talk about me. And I'm stressing out about this. And Charvel's like, it's, bellwether's all people need to know. The name's all they remember. And stop. You're obviously stressed out. You're stressing me out. Like, come on, little biscuit. Let's go have fun. And I love the little biscuit thing. It's very cute.
It's so cute.
It's so cute. Because again, like, you really feel like, even though they're like not on the same page with this, like, there's obviously actual affection between the two of them. That's not tied to this like achievement thing the way it is with like Petra and Abigail. They seem more like family members, like a normal family member. And so like the ending exchange where Charvel's like, I'm gonna soak my feet, go have fun. Abigail seems like genuinely happy with the end of this conversation, like with Charvel. It's very, very cute. And Charvel's like, you know what? I'll reintroduce you to the dean and be a good big sister, and that'll help you relax. And Abigail's like, okay, yay. And so that seems to make Abigail relax for like the first time since she came to this wedding.
I just think that Charvel got to a point where she was done with the Kool-Aid and faced the reality of her situation, but knew that she had nowhere else to go with it. So she's making the best of what she's got, and that's wearing a dress today and partying.
Yeah, she's drinking witch tears. Like, she's like, I'm just happy to be in this dress. Like, whatever.
Yeah, like I'm gonna be happy that I get to look how I want to look and wear what I want to wear for today.
Yeah, exactly. It's very sad.
She only has control over what she's doing, on that day, and that's it.
Yep. And that's their reality. Like, even those going along with the system are still trapped. They have no choice.
And that's why we're back to conscription is another name for slavery.
Exactly.
And also where it really hits home why the Spree are doing what they're doing and why they've been driven to these extreme measures.
Yeah.
Even if we don't agree with their extreme measures.
Exactly.
So the next scene.
Speaking of the Spree.
I don't even know what I'm going to do with Scylla. I don't know what to do with Scylla in this scene.
She's a bad spy. We all know this.
Such a bad spy.
She's so bad.
So Tally's crying in the bathroom, and Scylla comes in. She's checking, looking around, making sure nobody's there.
Wait. Before she checks the stalls, she locks the door.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't even check the room.
She didn't even check the room.
I know, she's so bad.
She kind of looks around a little bit, and that's it. She locks the door, and then she looks in one stall.
One stall. Yeah,
one
exactly.
stall
Like, Scylla,
only.
what is this?
Not even the whole stall, because Tally's in the corner. Okay? I cannot stress to you how obvious Tally's presence was. However, Scylla didn't see her. Can she only literally visualize Raylla at this point?
I don't.
Is there like, she can't see anything else?
Scylla's mind is in the fantasy Runaway world.
I guess it is.
So she's like, I gotta talk to this balloon real quick, but whatever. I kind of checked stuff, whatever. Get me out of here.
So she just does a terrible job.
She does.
She's not good at her job. The only way in which she's good at her job is her seduction skills.
And her new work she's constantly inventing.
Yeah, and her new work she's inventing.
Jesus Christ.
So she goes to talk to the loon in the mirror, and says I have her, and that she's awaiting instructions on the extraction. And keep in mind, Tally's hearing all of this and is freaking out. But Scylla says something really important here, and it's that she needs to know that Raylla will be safe once she gets her there. Once again, we see a confirmation of Scylla's feelings for Raylla, but the balloon is like, mind your own damn business. Puts her in her place.
She asks before she finishes, should I wait with her?
Should I wait with her? Girl, you should just go with her.
I know. How else is
like,
she going to get
off to the beach?
Just like handcuff yourselves together and be like, well, I guess you're taking me too.
Thank you. I guess you're taking me too. Yeah, we're handcuffed. That's it. And I swallowed the keys.
Yeah. So we'll get around that. Like,
Scylla
damn
would.
it.
Scylla would. She would. So she says that, and it's so cute. And at the same time, you can just tell how nervous she is about this and how bad she's feeling in that moment. Like, she's like, what am I going to do? Like, what is going, like, she's trapped. Like everyone else, she's trapped. She's trapped between, she's in a catch-22.
Yeah, totally. This is the choice they gave her. They're like, it's you or Raylla. And Scylla does not like this decision that she has to make. No. And she's just fidgeting the whole time. And I think part of this is she's accepting the fact that regardless of her decision, her time with Raylla is coming to an end one way or another. Mm. So it's just, I think Scylla really, now that she's in it, really hates this.
She does. Like you said, her fantasy is at an end.
Yeah. And so she has to choose like a path in reality at the ultimately.
She can no longer pretend that this could turn out in a way that they're going to be riding off into the sunset and being happy.
Yeah.
But Tally's freaking out. Scylla leaves, and then we go back to the dance floor. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about that part?
Just one thing. When after Scylla leaves, Tally looks in the mirror, and I'm kind of
she does.
I'm surprised, based on Tally's like knowing abilities, she doesn't see anything in the like any kind of like spiderweb things, like tracer magic. I'm just surprised because it's Tally.
The only thing that I could say is that she was so emotionally distraught and also upset at that point that maybe her witchy knowing powers weren't really in the best.
Yeah, place. I was thinking that too. But yeah, just weird because I feel of all the people, Tally would have been like, "Oh, I see the spider webs."
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, just a little comment.
I mean, she even like goes right up to it.
Yeah, exactly. Like she legit inspects this thing. So I thought that was weird.
Yeah. So we're back out at the dance floor, and Raylla's sitting on the edge, looking shattered, and she's not there anymore. Mentally, she's not there.
She's a sad puppy.
She's a very sad puppy, and Scylla approaches her and asks if something happened with Petra, but Raylla's just kind of in another land, and eventually, when she does answer Scylla, she's somewhat incoherent. Just her mom and my mom. There's still a lot of moms around. Like, what are you trying to say? It's about moms. That's all Scylla can get out of that. So she's also nervous about something else and distracted, which is her decision. And so you can see she's very emotional in that moment for what she's about to do. And she takes Raylla's hand and says, "Come with me." and gets up, and Raylla gets up with her because she's not really there mentally. And they flash to the clock, and you can see how scared Scylla is. She's at this point, it's down to the wire, and she's kind of petrified. But Raylla, being the shattered puppy that she is, wants to dance. So she's like, "Can we dance for a minute?" And Scylla's like, damn it. Okay, you're too cute. Fine, we can dance. So she agrees, and at that point, she's pretty much made her choice. They go on to get up and go dance because Raylla really wants to dance. But what were you gonna say?
Just a couple things on this scene. It's so beautiful the way this was done.
Mm-hmm.
So when Raylla again is like Willa collar triggered, and Scylla's like, "Hey, come with me." She doesn't make eye contact with Raylla initially.
No, not at all.
She's struggling. She struggles to put that forced smile back on her face that she normally does when she's like trying to when she's in spree mode, trying to the mission, that fake smile she puts on her face. And she says, "Have that walk with me on the beach." She can't even get the smile on her face when she's saying this. So you see it in that moment that she's like already kind of making her decision, which again, the decision is from the spree, the ultimatum is it's you or Raylla. So that's the choice she's trying to make here. And throughout this whole conversation with Raylla, she keeps looking at the clock, which again has the message on it that says dawn of a new era, basically thing. And so old Scylla the Dodger, Scylla the spree agent, would choose herself because Scylla up to this point it's always been Scylla first. Like Scylla's what matters most, Scylla's survival is what matters most. So she's now in this position where she has to choose her own survival over somebody else's well-being. And so this is the new era for Scylla. She's actively choosing Raylla's well-being over herself. And it's significant on many levels because Scylla has never done that ever before, ever. It's always Scylla is always the answer. But here you see her struggling with Scylla versus Raylla. And when she makes this choice, she wholeheartedly chooses Raylla 100 million% over herself. And with the knowledge that the spree is going to kill me, that's what's going to happen. But your well-being and you going on is more important than me. I see something powerful in you. I have wholeheartedly become attached to you, and somebody else finally means more to me than I do to myself. So this is Scylla's leap. Because in the last episode, Raylla made the leap where she's like, here's everything, I'm throwing it all on the line. But in this little thing where she's struggling with Scylla versus Raylla, Scylla wholeheartedly chooses Raylla, and this is her reciprocation of here's everything. I'm giving you I'm literally choosing your life over mine. She makes the big leap. So this is Scylla's big leap.
And she's also thinking, well, I was supposed to win liberation for all witches.
Yeah.
With the spree, but here's this person that the first person that she's loved, let her set, I don't even think she had, she didn't even have a choice. She just fell. And so this is the first person that she's ever been like, oh, okay, well, why can't she and I liberate witches together? We could do our own thing.
Totally.
And that's kind of what Amalia says in one interview that she's talked about this in. So I really like that perspective of, okay, well, I still want to liberate all witches, but I'd rather do it with Raylla than with the spree. Because I think she's always had misgivings about the spree on a certain level.
Yeah, totally.
So I don't think she's ever fully trusted with good reason because Scylla doesn't trust people.
Yeah, Scylla's trusted nobody ever. And this is her kind of trusting Raylla to a certain degree, which again is significant.
Right. And the spree is no different.
No, they gave her the ultimatum, we're going to end you if you don't do what we say. So, who trusts an organization that's saying that to them?
Who trusts an organization like that? No one. But she trusts Raylla because Raelle's proven herself time and time again that she's absolutely there for Scylla. Right. And if the choice was reversed, Raylla would 100,000 million% just throw herself in front of anything that was coming at Scylla.
Right.
So they would choose each other over themselves.
Yeah. And that's kind of like split up between 2 episodes. That's what they're demonstrating, the 2 of them.
Exactly. But we also get...
Okay,
Go ahead.
Sorry. Last thing I want to note is the last time she looks at the clock before they go to dance. There's 5 minutes before 6 o'clock. So where the hell is this extraction point?
Yeah.
Because when we get the aerial shot of the mansion, that property is huge, and there's no way the extraction point is on the Bellweather property.
Did she have some salva and they were going to fly over there?
Right. At that point, I feel like the choice was made, because how is Scylla getting Raylla to the extraction point?
And that's exactly why I said she's made the choice. It's like, there's no way.
What is she struggling with? It's like, Scylla, you already ran out of time like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, 20 minutes ago, you were out of time.
Right.
When you were looking in that window for 20 minutes.
Right. You should have been, like, your deadline was right then when you were staring at that conversation. So I had to bring that up, minus all the beautifulness, because
absolutely.
they were already out of time, realistically.
they have no time. You're right.
Oh, God. Okay, so after we get out of Scylla's big choice, we go to Abigail confronting Mama Bellweather. So Mama Bellweather is finally out of hand fasting headspace, and she's like, oh, the dean was so happy to meet you. And Abigail projects all her feelings about everything onto her mom. And she's like, me? All she did was be like, you're a Bellweather, congrats. She didn't even pretend to give a shit about who Abigail Bellweather is. And Abigail, again, says this cute phrase of like, shouldn't a good soldier be about more than coasting and relying on your reputation and legacy? Which, again, is the whole Bellweather motto. It's just like reputation, legacy, that's it. And preserving that. And Bellweather, Petra basically expresses that. She's like, listen, all the stuff I did was for you. Like, the dean brings up me, but I'm synonymous with you. And that's kind of where Petra is. And it's all about securing the legacy for the next daughter, securing the like it's a long game. And Abigail is just like, again, young, and is like, well, what about me, the individual? And Petra's like, I am doing it for you. Can't you see that? So that's kind of like their different perspective on this. They're both working towards the same goal, but it's being viewed differently. And Abigail's like, whatever, Mom, you just did this to make you look better. It has nothing to do with me. And she just storms away from her mama. She's like, I can't deal with this right now. And a very pissed off Abigail runs into Garrett, who is looking for Tally. And she's like, listen, leave her the fuck alone. You're going to hurt her more. Just go away. Go with your lady witch and get out of here. And so, even when she's hurt, she's being protective of Tally, which is really cute. So Garrett, stay the hell away from her. Abigail will kill you. Let's just leave it at that.
Absolutely. So we see Tally come out of the house, who walks straight up to Anacostia, who is talking to, isn't it Tansy and somebody else?
Tansy and some other bestie they have. I don't know who this person is.
Yeah, Tansy's bestie, whatever. So she gets Anacostia to come away from them because it's private. And you can tell Anacostia is so annoyed.
Oh my God, her
like,
face.
This girl, I know. She's like, this girl is here again, up in my shit, bothering me, and I'm trying to have a good time. And even though I've heard about the coup for my boss and all this other stuff going on, like, this girl won't obey my orders. I'm just trying to chill, and nobody will let me.
This cadet has the audacity.
Yeah. But she does get Anacostia to listen to her and tells her that she saw a balloon.
Dun, dun, dun.
And that she thinks Scylla is spree. But the way that Tally says this, it's almost like stage whispery.
Yeah, totally.
I think Scylla is spree.
Yeah, Tansy heard that shit. She's like, well, that's somebody I can knock off the hand fasting list.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no one's subtle.
Bad spies are all bad spies. Which, Mama Cassia, this is your fault. You didn't teach her how to be a spy in basic, so whatever.
Jeez, come on, guys.
This is why there's coups everywhere that are not so secret.
So Anacostia is obviously like, nah, what the fuck? And so she turns around to look off towards the dance floor, which takes us back to our star-crossed lovers. And I'd like to note WLCM, the song that's playing.
Yep.
What Love Could Mean. It's iconic now in the Motherland universe, especially with all the Raylla folk. It's a beautiful song, and you see Scylla and Raylla dancing. Raylla looks incredibly happy, and Scylla just looks So I guess the only word I can really think of for it is stormy. Like everything in her is in turmoil. She's trying to soak in the feeling of being there with Rael as this vignette of their past scenes goes through, and you see the Salva scene, them waking up together, like their first kiss. And it's just what's going through Scylla's mind at that moment. She's just trying to hang on to everything that she loves, and that is Rael, period, and what they have. So she's feeling incredibly emotional, and you can just tell she's there with Rael, but she's also in the past with Rael.
You just see the acceptance of reality just written on her face.
Yeah.
Their time is coming to an end.
Yes. Their fantasy is now absolutely evanesced into nothing.
Yeah.
And they have to face the reality of the clock striking 6.
Yep.
Scylla stops and looks at it. She's very pale and stricken, and it's so heartbreaking. She stops dancing, and Rael is kind of concerned, like, what's going on? And she asks if everything's okay, and then Scylla kind of snaps out of it and tries to reassure her. And Rael can tell that there's really something wrong, and she keeps pushing it for a second. But Scylla puts on the smile. It's not the whole smile, it's just the sad version of Scylla's
Yeah.
smile.
It is.
It's such a sad version of Scylla smiling.
It is.
And she says, let's just dance. So basically, she's echoing what Rael said earlier. Can we just dance? Like, I just want to be with you right now. I need to get it all while I can, the last few moments we have. And then they start dancing again, and Scylla says it. She 1000% commits and says, no matter what happens, I love you. You can see Rael soaking those words in. She doesn't say anything back, but she smiles and she kind of nuzzles into Scylla's hair / neck. And so she's like, oh, it's like this combination of elation and relief for Rael.
Yes.
Because it's a confirmation of the feelings Scylla has for her. Because up till now, she's been very cagey about it. And although she could probably sense Scylla was with her more recently, the words confirmation means a lot. Then we go to Scylla's face, and this shot is just, it's fucking epic. She's just sad, feeling everything, like all of these emotions at the same time. She's utterly in love. She's chosen Rael over everything else, including herself. And it is probably going to cost her her own life in the process. So she'll never get to experience life with Rael in whatever fashion that they're kept apart. So although they had these thoughts of, okay, let's run away, she knows that's not realistic because Scylla's lived in the world and Rael hasn't. So Scylla knows how it works a little more, and she's seen, although Rael's seen tragedy with her mom, she hasn't seen it the way Scylla has. So Scylla has some unique life experience over Rael in this area, and I think she's just a little more realistic about life in general, a little more pessimistic about that part, shall we say, to put it mildly.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, their whole scenario is let's run away. And Scylla's whole life has been running away,
It has been.
and living and hiding. And she knows that, like, that doesn't end well. Like, eventually they found her parents and killed them. Like, she's like, even that would end like this with something tragic happening. And so I think she's like, also like, I don't know.
This was her trying to do something about it. This was her
Right.
taking action. And yet she's back in the same position
Right.
where she's trapped with no good decision to make.
Correct.
Scylla can't win, y'all.
Nobody can win.
No
Nobody
one
wins
can
in this
win.
episode.
Except Elliot.
Yes, well, Elliot wins, so we can all win. But
Yeah.
also, speaking of winning, give Amalia all the awards for the scene because
Please.
holy crap, like the way she did this was just beautiful.
Even remembering the scene and talking through it is like making my scalp tingle and my emotions go crazy.
But yeah, this is Scylla choosing Raylla over herself ultimately, and the clock strikes, and there it is. She made her choice, and while it's really scary, and she's like, "Well, fuck, this is real." Like she just accepts it, and I love at the end where she's like, "Let's just dance," because she's not trying to worry Rail, place the burden on Rail. If any of this, she made this big heavy choice, and she knows the consequences. She knows it's not good, but she's like, "You keep being happy while we can too," as part of it.
Exactly.
She doesn't want the burden on her.
She's giving Rael a little bit of a gift of the gift of ignorance, blissful ignorance.
Yeah. She definitely is.
So,
because this is Scylla's choice, and Scylla wants the burden on her, not Rail.
She's owning it.
Yeah, she's owning it. Well said. Exactly.
So Scylla's owning her choice, and Amalia's face. I just keep coming back to that moment where she looks at the clock after it strikes, and just the sheer, just oh my god, that image just stays in your head.
Yeah,
those big wide blue eyes.
Just that horrid acceptance. Yeah, it's very powerful the way she did it. But unfortunately, we have to go from this heartbreaking scene to another soon to be heartbreaking scene when Abigail goes to find Charvel.
Can I have my money back?
Poor Abigail. So Abigail goes back to Charvel's room, and before she enters, she starts hearing this really weird, low, ringing, buzzing kind of sound, and she's like, "That's weird." And she tries to get through the door, but it's locked. And I'm like, "All right." And she tries to do the sigil, and that doesn't work. So Abigail's like, "Well, shit." So she busts down the door into the bathroom and finds Charvel's bloody body in the bathtub, and the water's still going. She's like splayed, and there's blood everywhere. And Abigail is very understandably upset by this, and she just runs to Charvel and like takes a quick glance around the room, and you notice there's this bloodied handle on the cracked window, so that there's your murderer escaping. And when they do this aerial shot of Charvel, you see that her vocal cords have been removed. Would you like to comment on that, Bree?
I would really much like to comment on this. So, here's the deal. I work in surgery. I know what surgery entails. I've seen quite a few surgeries and been a part of quite a few surgeries on necks, shall we say. So, the way that Charvel's vocal cords have been removed is not at all realistic to the tools that they had. Because later we see the person that has supposedly taken out these vocal cords with a big giant knife. That in no way is going to let you take out the vocal cords that cleanly. Even if they did have a scalpel, it would have been impossible to do it because it's a very vascular area, and dissecting through that without any kind of hemostasis or control of bleeding is like, you can't see. Blood fills everything, and there's no way you can see. Because in surgery, when we do things like that, we have suction, we have cautery. So they keep the area visible. Also retractors, they don't have any of that either. So they can't see what they're doing. And yet they're taking these vocal cords or the entire trachea out like super cleanly. What fresh hell?
Right.
And that's Bree's surgery rant for the day. I'm gonna call it Bree's surgery corner. Listen, that didn't happen.
What were they doing? No, I agree.
And they would have damaged the vocal cords trying to remove them that way. So it would have just spoiled the entire purpose.
Which, yeah, exactly. What were they doing? Yeah, I wonder too with this whole scenario. Like they look. Spoiler: there's attackers. They kind of have blood on them, but like I almost feel like they're
so clean.
I don't think they were the ones that did the surgery, because why have the cracked window with the bloodied hand?
They were outside.
Yeah, I think the surgery person left, and these two minions were there because they weren't as bloodied, and so whoever opened the door was super bloody. So
he still didn't have the appropriate tools.
No, absolutely not. That I don't know what they were doing, but I think there was a third person,
and he also didn't have the light. Because you can't say goddamn shit in that.
No.
I'm sorry.
This was ridiculous. But Charvel, suspend the disbelief, everybody.
Also,
But
why is she still like? There would be blood everywhere on her body.
I'm mad. No one turned off this faucet. That's just a waste of water.
She just looks like Ophelia floating in the water.
Yeah, she totally does. Oh man, maybe that's what they're going for. But
maybe it was. I know what they were going for. They were going for that dramatic shot, but my science brain does not allow it.
I understand. So thank you for your surgery perspective on the surgery mishap that went down here.
Oh, we've got surgery covered. We've got pharmacological things covered.
Yeah, we'll have infectious diseases covered when we get to season 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so what the hell? But anyway, so Abigail also was like, what the fresh hell just happened in here? And backs out of this room because she's like, danger, danger. And yes, there's danger. So she gets into this physical fight with this dude and this woman in waiter uniforms that have some blood on them. And Abigail at first tries to do work and like wind strike them, but it doesn't work, just like the sigil. Like something is blocking it. And so the dude is like, awesome, and pulls out this big knife Bree was talking about, and they just start brawling. And Abigail, to her credit, like in this physical fight, definitely holds her own for like a hot second, but then she gets pinned to the dresser, and then we cut away dramatically from Abigail.
I just want you to know that I literally wrote in my notes that she held her own for a hot second.
It's because we share a brain cell now.
It's because we share a brain cell.
We've been doing this for too long and share a brain cell.
We have. We're merging. Oh my goodness. So after we cut away from Abigail, we are back to the wedding party, but we're high up. And you see a flock of blue balloons floating towards the wedding party.
There's like 50 of them.
And the spree music plays. And Petra sees them. She's the only one to see 50 balloons floating towards the party.
It does not panic. She's just like, army stuff.
Doesn't panic. She's just like, we're following lockdown protocol, secure the perimeter, clear everyone out, move inside. So Raylla and Scylla notice something's going on, and Raylla's like, what the hell? And then Scylla's kind of going to see. And then we go back to the blasters, who's this line of blasters who are brewing up a windstorm to blow the balloons away. So keep in mind, they're creating this storm in a space where there are a ton of people. So all of these people are in the path of that windstorm and are being harmed as they're getting the balloons away.
Yeah, and remember, some of these people aren't witches. Some of these people are just civilians who are like, what the fuck? And they're not prepared for this.
They're not prepared at all. The witches are doing their best, and you can see everyone goes into, okay, we have to help all of these civilians get inside mode.
Yeah.
So Raylla sees Scylla one more time, puts her hand on her shoulder as she passes by, and she's trying to get people inside.
Because Raylla puts other people before herself, and she just goes into fixer mode.
Even if it's random civilians. But yeah, Petra's looking for Abigail. Nobody knows where she is. She's calling her name, and that's when we get to the big, big fight.
Before we go there, I have to make the comment about Scylla. So when the 50 balloons come at the party, Scylla distanced herself from Raylla.
Yep.
Because again, when Scylla chose Raylla over herself, she 100% chose Raylla. So she knows the spree is going to come after her. And so she's distancing herself from Raylla so that Raylla doesn't get harmed by Scylla's choice. So I have to point that out because this is a new era for Scylla. Scylla is not number one person is Scylla. She put Raylla first, and you physically see her doing that. That's why she's distancing herself from Raylla.
Where we saw Raylla putting herself in front of Scylla earlier, you see Scylla placing herself away from Raylla because the danger's coming strictly for her.
Exactly. So that's what Scylla's doing. And it's very sad. But again, it speaks to Scylla as a character. When she believes something, she wholeheartedly believes it. And she believes Raylla is worth it. And so that's what she's doing. Go, Scylla.
Go, Scylla.
So now we go to the final showdown. So Petra is like, can't find Abigail, so she freaks the fuck out. And she runs inside the big-ass mansion. And she goes to Charbel's room. And she hears the weird buzzing. And then, this is going to trigger Bree, But then
I'm already triggered.
We see Petra's sexy anger face. Her MILF power. The woman can get it. I'm just saying, just in the scene. It's so good. Mama Bellweather. Oh my God. Then she busts down the door as if she wasn't attractive enough and goes into this room and finds the dude and that woman attacking Abigail. And they have Abigail on her knees, and dude has big ass knife against her neck, like he was going to botch the surgery and try to remove her vocal cords, is the implication there. But we question this. We question this because we know the knife's wrong. They have no lighting. She's standing. How are you going to do this? It doesn't matter. And Mama Bellweather is having none of this. And so she tries to wind strike them and gets the same issue as Abigail, where the buzzing's happening. She can't perform vocal work. So the attackers don't pay Mama Bellweather any mind. Which, what?
For whatever reason.
Right. They're like, oh, you're this big, powerful witch, whatever. And then they just go back to Abigail. And
like,
Mama's
she's
like,
not even there.
Like, she's not there. And she pulls out her scourge. Like, they didn't know the witches have long range physical weapons. This was weird.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so she scourges them away from Abigail, basically. And so then we get into this mama-daughter tag team fight.
Oh, so epic.
That's so epic. And I have to comment here, Elliot in the After the Storm says that he is so proud of this particular moment because he's like, I've never seen a mother-daughter ass-kicking scene ever. And he's like, I wondered why I've never seen anything like this before, so I wanted to give the world this. And like, yeah, me too, King. Why have we never seen this before? This is epic. So thank you, Elliot, for putting this in here. It's amazing. And Ashley also says, too, like, to kind of comment on all this stuff we've seen before with the two of them, where, like, you get the sense there's love there, but it's being expressed very strangely because of the way the Bellwethers are. And Abigail kind of Ashley comments that there is love between them and they literally have each other's backs, which is what you're also seeing in this scene. So it's awesome on so many levels. And so it's like the ancient kick-ass dance of the Bellwethers. They just start fighting. And I have to note a couple of weird shit that happens in here. The woman comes at Abigail with this knife, and Abigail uses a pillow to block this knife, which was just such a gamble. It works, but girl, that almost didn't work and you would have died. So that's happening. And then Petra's fighting the dude. And then as this is going, you kind of hear the buzzing kind of like shake and like it's being destroyed. And finally, Petra roundhouse kicks the dude out of the door into the hallway. And then you stop hearing the buzzing. And you see his shirt kind of come open a little bit. And he has this like device on his chest. And that's where this noise was emanating from. But Petra broke it when she kicked him. So that means it's work time. And the dude and the woman attacker go out into the hallway all dramatically and pour gasoline on themselves. And while they're doing this, Petra's even angrier face shows up to this fight, and just hot damn. And her and Abigail together stalk outside, and the agents light themselves on fire and then scream to living people, "We are the spree." And then the Bellwethers, with their work intact, then wind strike them out into the storm, like through the window out into the storm, getting rid of them. And then as it ends, Abigail, once that happens, just like her adrenaline goes away and she just kind of like almost collapses. She's just like, whew, it all hits her. What just happened? And Petra looks to her daughter and just immediately goes into, oh my God, like my daughter just got attacked mode, and like puts her hand over Abigail's heart, and you see her like healing Abigail, like making sure she's okay. And it's a very sweet moment. And like Petra, like you see her like touch Abigail's face to like make sure she's okay. And you really see that affection with them. And I think this is a very significant bonding moment that's happening with the two of them on a personal level that's going to connect them. Because before that, it's very much like hierarchical mom and daughter kind of stuff. But here it's like, we went through war together kind of thing. And I think it's going to link the two of them a little bit better.
When she's touching Abigail, people on this show do this really well. The physical expression of concern. Because you see it with Scylla and you see it with Petra. It's all over the place. It's just a very good representation of how one would take care of a loved one. But also, I have questions.
Yes. Before we leave this scene, we're going to bring this up now and point out these were quote-unquote spree agents. But there are many what we're going to call spree discrepancies that happened in this whole thing.
I also have something else.
Ooh.
I need
What
to
else?
point out Abigail's badassery in one moment.
Yes, do it.
So there's a moment where the female quote-unquote spree agent stabs Abigail in the chest.
Oh, yes.
And what does she do? Well, at first she's fighting with her over the knife because the woman's trying to stab her. And then all of a sudden you see Abigail, her instincts say, okay, let the knife stab me, but I'm going to use that momentum to knock the shit out of this woman. And that's what she does. So she takes the knife to the chest so she can, one, disarm the woman because the knife's now in Abigail,
Right.
all the way to the hilt. You see it go in slowly.
She screams.
She screams. And then B, knock the woman unconscious.
Yeah, it's great.
It's amazing.
It's so good.
Love that part of the fight. All right. And now back to why we think this is really, really dubious.
No major spoilers. Just we're calling it spree discrepancies. Because we all know the spree are bad spies. This goes beyond that.
This is so sus.
So how many spree discrepancies did you have?
Hold on. I gotta scroll down because I made like a whole
I'm sure you
list
have
here.
more than me.
I don't know about that.
I have 5.
You're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
See,
8,
you're
9.
already one.
Okay, whatever. Lots of balloons floating into a very easily defended by witches area.
There were 50 balloons. All we've seen so far is they just need one.
They need one container that can have air. It could have been inside the freaking wedding.
Right. Why was it coming at the wedding?
Makes
no sense. What? Like, it wasn't like there's one spree agent in the middle summoning it the way Scylla summoned it into the mall. Like,
thank you.
Why was that happening?
The only thing I can imagine is that it was the distraction for the people to get away.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay. So next.
Also, none of the balloons pop. We don't see any of them pop.
None of the balloons pop.
Okay.
This is an internal attack on a prominent witch family, and it's personal. It's unlike the sprees attacks.
Yep.
And I know they've discussed how the sprees attacks are evolving, but they're not evolving like this.
No.
The spree only kill witches in defense.
Right.
Up to this point, they've only killed witches in defense.
Right.
Also, the spree doesn't harvest vocal cords.
Yeah. Why would witches be stealing other witches' vocal cords? Yes.
It does not add up.
No.
The tech. We've never seen... Every time we see the spree, they're using the most low-tech methods.
Balloons.
Of work. Balloons. Bottles.
Right.
Inflatables.
Why would witches silence themselves?
Why would witches silence themselves when they're attacking other witches? Their work is more powerful than anything else. I mean, somebody's going to make the argument that, hey, well, maybe they were just eliminating the possibility of the other witches' work and thinking they could win and hand it. No. That does not fly.
No. All they had to do was leave a balloon in the room. Abigail comes in, they pop it, and Abigail's dead.
This is so much more complicated of an attack than it needed to be if it was the spree.
No, totally. The spree is not capable of this kind of attack. They're just like, put a balloon in, pop it, whatever.
There are so many moving parts to this attack. This was planned far in advance, and no one in the spree plans like this.
No, they don't plan anything.
They're like, here's a balloon, go pop it in a mall.
Let's go fuck this shit up today. I just made the plan 5 seconds ago. Yeah, this was too coordinated.
Exactly. Here's my next question. Why would they say we're the spree in front of the people?
That's my huge one. Those people were alive. We know the spree doesn't do that. They do it when they're dead. So the spree would have killed Charvel and then been like, we are the spree to Charvel's body.
My next question, if it's not the spree, how did they know that the spree says we are the spree? Like, was that recorded at some point?
Right, yeah. How did they know they say that? Because they say it to dead bodies.
Did they... If it wasn't the spree, did they like capture a spree agent and torture them into telling them stuff?
And they're like, well, what's the last thing you do? Well, I say we are the spree to dead bodies. Great.
Yeah. Great.
Thanks.
Like, we're going to use that. Yeah, so no, it does not add up.
No,
It does not add up, my
does not
friends.
add up. Does not add
Nope.
up. So put a pin in all of the spree discrepancies
Mm-hmm.
because we'll circle back.
Yes, we will.
And we start seeing more of what the hell's going on in the next episode.
Yep, yep.
Yep.
So Edith, who is Charvel's mother and Petra's sister, and Ciro go and find Charvel in the bath, dead, vocal cordless, and Edith has an understandable reaction of being inconsolable. And then we go back to Tally, who's helping people to get to the fixers who've kind of set up around this table and are fixing people who were harmed in the storm. Everyone's just trying to recover at this point. And we go to Raylla, who's obviously super worried because she can't find Scylla. And she finds Tally instead, who knows what the heck's going on with Scylla, but can't tell her. And so she just kind of is really, she's so like torn. I think Tally really wants to say something here, but she can't and she doesn't. So at that point, Abigail comes out looking like shit and like she's in shock.
Covered in blood.
Covered in blood, her own blood.
Yeah.
May we, like all the blood from that stab wound in her chest is just soaked into her uniform. There's blood and scratches all over her face. It's just every part of her body has been battered up.
Yeah.
So Tally immediately goes to Abigail, and then Raylla starts to, but she sees something on the ground. She bends down and she finds the bird skull corsage or boutonniere, whatever you want to call it, that she had given to Scylla. And so she picks it up, and you can see on her face that she knows Scylla's gone. She doesn't know where or why or how, but she can sense that Scylla's gone, and she has no clue where she is. She goes over to Tally and Abigail, and Abigail, in all her shock, says, "Charvel, she's dead." Like she's saying it out loud for the first time to just kind of try to process it. And Raylla is standing next to Abigail with her head kind of bent down, staring at the bird skull corsage. And she says, "Scylla's gone too." So we have our unit standing together, mourning and worrying and trying to process everything that's happened. Abigail's in shock. Tally is crushed. Raylla is in her own world of what the fuck just happened to the woman that I love, who just said that she loves me, and now she's gone. It's very sad, very epic, but that last shot kills you. It kills you until the point where I'm like, Raylla, get your hair out of Abigail's blood.
Yeah. It's gross. And even Tally's like leaning into Abigail.
Yeah, I'm like, guys, I know that we're going for unit unity here and we're all in shock and we need some comfort, but me as a medical professional am like, stay away from bloodborne pathogens, possibilities, universal precautions.
As an infectious diseases specialist, I'm like, oh, diseases. Stop that.
Stop that. Don't touch the blood.
But on a more academic note with them, I think part of what makes this last, the shot is very heartbreaking. What makes it so even more painful is that, again, the three of them all had this illusion of their fantasies shattered. They all lost someone meaningful. Raylla lost the woman she's clearly in love with, and she lost that dream of running away and having that happy ever after life. So she's grappling with that, while Abigail just lost her cousin that she obviously loved like a sister, someone she idolized and was very affectionate with and so desperately wanted to be when she grew up. And she lost her in this horrific, gruesome way, and then had no time to process it and literally had to fight for her own life. And so she's crushed, and like the illusion of like me being a great soldier versus just coasting on my name, all of that hits Abigail. And then Tally also lost the first boy she ever loved, this disillusion of the happy ever after with her guy that she wants, and also had to like harm one of her unit members to do what she thought was right. So they all are like disillusioned from fantasy and are they're young adults, first of all. So they're coming out of their young adult shell into the reality of adulthood and real life and the moral gray. And that's the step. They're all being like forced into it against their will. So it's a very heartbreaking scene on many, 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 many levels. And we'll see the consequences of this evolve in the next episode.
These girls are 18 and they've just gone through
yeah, they're 18.
more
guys.
life experience
In
in
this one
one
scene.
day,
Ugh.
in one scene, than people go through in their entire lives.
Yes.
And it's all been horrible.
They all need therapy.
They need a therapist. Like there
Yes.
needs to be an entire corps of the army that are just
right.
therapists.
Where's their therapy is my question.
Where's the therapy?
Anyway, and then the other thing we get in this scene is the start of Scylla losing sentimental gifts 5 seconds after she gets them. This is the start.
Thank you. How did that just pop off? Like,
how did that come off the jacket? I feel like she had to take that off to throw it. There's no way that was coming off the jacket. Like, did she leave it for Raylla?
Oh, what if she left it as a breadcrumb?
Right.
That's so Scylla.
It is so Scylla.
How come I've never thought of that before?
Because there's no way that came off the jacket. There's no way.
Oh my God, you're right.
Makes no sense.
Epiphany. You do this to me every time.
This is why we're friends.
Yes, it is.
It is. But, friend, do you have anything else on this scene before we pop into another discussion we need to have?
No, I'm good. Let's get on to
Okay, so this may trigger you a bit, so just please let me finish before you start raging.
I'm gonna sit on my hands.
Just hang on. So, in the last episode, we talked about the toxicity with Raylla and Scylla in the spirit of revisiting all the stuff with season 1. If we're going to do this, I think we need to address another Raylla and Scylla point of confusion that was circling in the fandom around this point in the story. And that's the love question. So just let me frame it before you rage about this, because I know you'll want to.
I'm muting myself.
So I think we need to break this up into Raylla's point of view and then Scylla's point of view. I think Scylla, we could start there. It's a lot more straightforward. Like the question is, well, why does Scylla love Raylla? I think that's more straightforward. It's pretty obvious. We talked about it in this episode that like Raylla shows Scylla that she's choosing her all the time. The bigger question is, why does Scylla love Raylla? Or why does Raylla love Scylla? And that's where all this confusion kind of comes from, and that's where the toxicity comes back into play.
I just want everyone to know that she's doing spirit fingers right now.
I am. Hopefully that translates through the podcast. If not, I'm sorry. I'm not a witch. But I want your take on this because it is something that I think causes a lot of confusion with people. Like, well, why do they love each other? Meanwhile, we never get the why does Garrett and Tally say I love you after 3 days, literally 3 days together. Their love is worse. But no one complains about this. They talk about these two. And so what is your take on why does Scylla love Raylla and why does Raylla love Scylla? Go.
Scylla loves Raylla because she's Raylla, and she's the only person in Scylla's life that has ever chosen her and showed her consistently is the key, that she is all in for Scylla. She's the only person that ever wanted to know who Scylla is for a straightforward reason. No reason other than she was interested. I feel like when other people ask questions about Scylla feels like they have an agenda. Raylla has no agenda, and it's obvious from the openness that she has. Not just with Scylla, with everyone. Like we've said before, Raylla is an open book. There's no disguise. She is what she is. And that's also a reason that Scylla falls in love with Raylla, because she admires that. Scylla's had to cover herself up for her entire life. She is covered in layers and layers and layers of compartments that she keeps all of her feelings in separately. All the compartmentalized feelings that Scylla has are all stored separately in and amongst her emotional baggage. Therefore, she admires that everything Raylla feels comes out as a blast of sunlight.
Yes.
Rather than it being in the dark.
Yes.
Scylla's been in the dark her entire life, and Raylla brings her into the light and shows her that there could be a life where she could be happy. And Scylla's never been happy except for in small moments. Very small moments where she's watching ships leave for faraway lands. Those are times where she's seen the sunlight in the distance, but Raylla takes her to live oaks and shines light down on her.
Yes. Raylla is wife material.
Raylla's wife material.
Okay, so that's Scylla. I think that argument holds and it makes perfect sense. So now Raylla. I think this gets murky because, before you go, in the last episode with Byron and Raylla's conversation, we talked about how when they're talking, Raylla basically tells Byron, like, I'm in love with Scylla. She basically says it there. Okay, let's take that moment into context, because in that moment, she was having doubts about who Scylla even is. And Byron even says, like, well, sometimes you don't really know people. So this whole scene is framed as, like, she doesn't really know Scylla, but she loves her. So I think this is where a lot of the confusion comes from, of, like, why does Raylla love Scylla? What do you think?
I don't think Raylla knows why Raylla loves Scylla. She just knows that she does. But that's the beauty of Raylla. She loves blindly. Even though she can't see all of these pieces of Scylla, she knows there are pieces there. And every time she sees a new one, she gets a little bit closer. And I don't want to say it's the addiction of chasing that. It is to a degree. But every part of Scylla that she sees, she loves. She's at the tip of the iceberg, right? But I also think Raylla loves how opposite Scylla is from her. And also the charm, because Scylla has charm in spades. But those moments where she does get to see what Scylla's really like are so special that sticks with her to the point where she hangs on to this, and she loves the opposite of her in a way. So here's this girl who's coming out of her own issues and stepping with Raylla into the light and being brave. And I think Raylla loves Scylla for being brave because she has all of these things that totally bring her down. And I absolutely see everyone's point as far as why does Raylla have a reason to love Scylla? But that's the crazy thing about love. A lot of times there's not a clear reason. Love isn't black and white. It's very gray and murky. You can love someone and hate them at the same time. You can love someone and never know why you love them, just that they came into your life and something about that person lit up your soul and set you on a path that you never imagined. And that's what Scylla did for Raylla. Because when Raylla and Scylla met, they were in these places, especially Raylla, where she was being drawn into this life that she never wanted. And then she meets Scylla, who's full of other possibilities and has seen more of things than she has. And as she gets to know that, I think because Scylla's so opposite from everything in the army, because we know Raylla loves the army
so much,
they have very similar ideologies about the army and about everything having to do with conscription. She's found a kindred spirit, one that looks like Amalia Home. So,
yeah, I think part of the confusion is, like, yeah, there's the deception component. So it's like, does Raylla love Scylla or is she infatuated with Scylla? Because it's one thing to be like, she's hot, love it. But
right.
like, do they have that deep connection? And I think, I'm hoping through this podcast that we made that argument that there's more to them than just you're hot. When they first met, like you brought up, Raylla was just like, I'm doomed, my life's gonna end, let's just kill me, get it over with. But Scylla gave her life back and made her happy for the first time in what was probably a very long time.
Thank you. She makes her happy.
She made her happy right off the bat. And then as it evolves and they get to know each other, you see that Raylla and Scylla have a lot in common. So they have a lot of things that connects them together. They both lost parents, their ideologies, like you said, and Raylla can understand Scylla's grief and vice versa. So they are actually connected to each other, and it's more than an infatuation thing. And so that's what I was hoping we could highlight with this, that when Raylla says I love her, she does mean it. And I'm glad you brought up the gray with this, because even Elliot says, to quote him, he says, Scylla is an enigma. You're like, I love her, but I don't know why. So you vocalize that very nicely.
But can we also go back to the death cap scene where
go listen to that episode, because it just proves that they're connected. The scene. Go to the scene.
The scene where Scylla's revealing herself for the first time to Raylla in a real way. She gives Raylla her philosophy, and you can see how Scylla can light Raylla up. The change in her face when she's hearing Scylla talk about something that she's passionate about, which is her necro philosophies on how life relates to death. It's not something that Raylla has ever thought of. It's just blowing her mind. Scylla's blowing her mind in all of these little instances when she shows who she truly is.
Yes, and Raylla literally lights up Scylla's world after that. So it goes both ways is the point here. So yes.
Exactly.
Well said. So just had to revisit that because that was a heated, contested thing that was happening in this point in season 1. With that, I think we can just do our main takeaways.
Mm-hmm. Mama Bellweather needs to chill on Abigail.
Yeah.
And because she's going to get to a point where she's going to be rebelling against all that stuff, since Abigail has now going through this period where she realizes what it means to be a Bellweather versus what it means to be Abigail.
Correct.
Scylla makes her huge choice. She jumped off the cliff. Raylla over the spree. She's gonna free witches. She'll do it with Raylla if she remains alive.
TBD.
Tally and Garrett. Ugh. He's a douche for not saying anything because he has been with Hillary since last season.
Right.
Where was Hillary?
Right. They mentioned there's a trial period that happened. So like Garrett knew the engagement was happening during Beltane. He had to have known.
Was Hillary at Beltane and just
no, we've never seen her before. She had to have been. Yeah, what the hell?
I really feel like, was she deployed or something? But in any case, he knew.
Yeah.
That whole time.
Right. The whole time.
So Tally's heart is broken, and it's Garrett's fault because he wasn't honest with her.
No. But he loves her. Whatever.
He loves her, but he's, whatever. Whatever, Garrett.
Whatever, Garrett.
Raylla confronts Petra finally.
Finally.
We've seen that building over episodes, but it didn't go as she planned. It was totally diffused by all her feels and the compliments that Mama Bellweather and her coup plans. There's so many things in this episode.
She's roping in Clary, so she's got people.
Roping in Clary, she's got people on her side. The Dean of War College does not give a fuck about anything but the caterer's pagan food.
Yeah, she don't give a fuck. So she's like, you're it. Don't worry about it, Abigail. But Abigail is on her arc.
Exactly. Can I go to the buffet now?
Yes.
Hand fasting was cool, and the history is interesting. But also, this was not a spree attack in my mind.
Yeah, also, this hand fasting didn't go well. They didn't do the dagger thing. So Charvel met her demise. Poor Abigail had to witness that. And then we get a mother-daughter kick-ass moment between Abigail and Petra where they dispose of the quote-unquote spree attackers, leaving her with PTSD and Mama Bellweather a lot to think about, and just utter chaos. And Tally outs Scylla to Mama Costia, who was like, finally, an actual reason to hate this person.
Yeah.
And runs with that.
Lord.
I know. Now she has a real reason, finally, 5 episodes later.
Yeah.
And the end is just the unit just meeting reality of just, losing people and just going through a real battle together. And it's just the worst.
It is the worst. This episode is the best and the worst in a lot of ways.
Correct.
Because it's the pivotal episode that sets everyone on their little story arcs.
This is the new era episode.
The new era of Motherland.
Call back to the clock.
Dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
They've been birthed.
Yeah.
All right, so who's your Big Witch Energy Award?
All right. So this was hard. There's a lot of Big Witch energy going on in this episode.
Mhm.
But I'm going to give this to Scylla Ramshorn because there were multiple Big Witch energy measuring contests that happened that she won via proxy without lifting a finger. So she has so much of it, she doesn't even have to like fight her own battles. But mostly I have to give it to her because of her choice that she makes. Because she was faced with this ultimatum from the Spree, who has been threatening her since day one. And she basically chose somebody else's life over her own. And it not only took an enormous amount of Big Witch energy to do that, because now she has to face the Spree's wrath, but it also involved just a lot of bravery and love that not everyone is capable of. So for that alone, she wins it for me.
When Scylla commits, she commits 5,000,000%.
Yeah. So Scylla Ramshorn wins Biggest Witch Energy Award for just everything she did this episode.
I thought about giving it to her.
Because we share a brain cell now. Of course you did.
Yeah, of course. And I almost did, but I was torn. So in my quest to come off with some kind of veneer of impartiality, even though that ship sailed a long time ago, I gave it to Petra and Abigail for coming together.
That was my second choice.
In their fight. Of course it was, because we share that one brain
cell. We share the brain cell.
So
it's epic.
Even though Petra was a pushy helicopter parent this whole episode and rode Abigail all the way back into the barn and was far too concerned about appearances, she showed how badass she is and how much she cares about her family. So Abigail, for taking that knife in the chest just so she could disarm that Spree agent, and they're fighting together.
Yeah, their mother-daughter wind strike. That scene is so good.
Oh my god, epic.
So good.
It blew
them away. It was so good.
Blew them away.
But yeah, they definitely, the Bellweather Big Witch energy. Beautiful. But yeah, that was Biggest Witch energy. There's a lot of Big Witch energy that happened in this episode. So if you guys have other contenders, share, let us know who else gets it.
Let us know who you think should get it.
And we apologize again for the length of this episode but this episode, like Bree said, is a huge one, and there's so much stuff happening up that just sets up like the rest of the show. So we had to.
Yeah, it might be the same length as the rest of the episodes, but it wasn't.
No, it definitely wasn't. There's so much to unpack here, and we did. So if this takes you all week to listen to, we're sorry, but we hope you enjoy just how good this episode really is, and how this is the start of a new era for literally every character. So we just wanted to point all of that out.
That, and they have lobster.
And apparently fruit that Tally's never seen before. So
apples, Tally. They're apples.
He'll never get over that. But
I love it.
Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed.
Thanks for sticking with us.
If you made it this far.
On the journey of this episode, which is probably 5 hours long, and I hope that you tune in for the next one.
Yeah, it probably won't be as long, but we make no promises.
No promises.
Yeah, so until next time, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. And with that, we've been Big Witch Energy. If you like this episode, check out all of our other episodes right here on YouTube. Please like, comment below, and subscribe for more amazing content. Hydrate for Lesbian Jesus.